You are listening to Cemetery Confessions, the world's #1 goth talk podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Cemetery Confessions. I am your host, Danny Ashes, and I'm here with my 3 dearest friends. Trey, co-host of the Cemetery Confessions podcast, Azy Bats, DJ, musician, and writer extraordinaire, and Ryan Flint of the death rock band Witch Hands, and also the goth oddities store, The Arbitrarium. Not only that, Mark Freeth of the legendary goth band Ausgang is also stopping by at the end of the episode to share his thoughts on what we're talking about, so you definitely want to stick around for that. So what the hell are we talking about? Well, if you are familiar with our Facing Nostalgia series, you will know that in the past we have each picked an album that we loved in our youth, but hadn't revisited in years, and then we listened to that album to see if it holds up to our memory of its brilliance. Well, this time around, we've flipped the premise on its head, and we each picked an album that we initially listened to, hated, and never revisited. And then now, all these years later, after a breadth of music exposure, analysis, and club events, we're giving these albums a second chance to see if our views have changed. And we've got some pretty heavy hitters in this episode. Some of these albums are nigh sacred in the scene, so I can't wait to reveal those one by one. And of course, I look forward to all the angry YouTube comments. Azy, why don't we get started with your pick for this episode, which is Ministry's album With Sympathy? Can you share with us your history with this album?
Yeah, I can do that. My historical connection to Ministry's debut album With Sympathy is everybody always lauds it as like, this is a really great album, this is a seminal album, and every time I've tried to sit down and listen to it, up until about, I don't know, I'd say maybe 8 or 9 years ago, because that's when I gave up on it, I just don't care for it. It is... it's just super polished, unoriginal synth pop, and that was my perception of it prior to choosing it for this. So I was excited, anticipating going back and re-listening to that and saying, do I still feel the exact same way?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, this is more of a classic Facing Nostalgia episode album, because I did love this one in high school. And I remember playing the shit out of Revenge, for example. I probably listened to that a million times. But I haven't revisited it since then. Once I got over the weirdness and confusion of why is he doing a fake British accent, I kind of, I got into like Psalm 69, I think was the next album, and whatever few albums came after that, and really enjoyed those.
Yeah, I think it was Twitch and then Land of Rape and Honey. Yeah,
I think Psalm 69 was the first one I listened to after With Sympathy. But yeah, a few of those. Land of Rape and Honey I did listen to. But I was one of those people at the time that, while I enjoyed their later output, was sort of like, oh, I wish you'd make this funky synth pop again. And I haven't listened to the album in probably 15 years or so. And I've certainly had no shortage of experiences of people talking about how much they love it. Obviously, people love it so much that they have now forced Al to play this album live. So I was also excited to listen to this again.
Yeah.
I was going to say the weird thing for me is that I had never met anybody who recommended this album. I didn't really hear anybody who said anything about it at all. Usually everybody that would talk about Ministry that I knew. It was always The Land of Rape and Honey or The Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste.
Mm-hmm.
And I never heard anything about the only thing I knew about the Ministry synth pop era. I mean, I knew about it well before listening here, but I just knew, Every Day is Halloween. This song is a weird anomaly in their discography from what I had heard being introduced to Ministry. I then did go back and listen to their whole discography and found this album and was surprised and, of course, expected to see Every Day is Halloween on it, but that's not actually on any albums. That's a single, whatever. Back when singles were actually singles. Hearing you guys say that, oh yeah, this was a highly lauded album, I'm like, I've never really heard anybody talk about With Sympathy with any sort of great passion. It was just always this, whenever people mentioned it, it was always because it's such a massive divergence from what they became known for in their industrial metal heyday.
Mm-hmm. I don't have a comment for that without graphs. I need graphs for like the geographic prevalence of where people like what.
I think I heard it like probably Revenge or Effigy at a goth night in town, like over 20 years ago, and one of my friends was like, "Guess who this is?" And that was probably like, I don't know, '07. And then I went out and found the tape at a cool thrift store, listened to it till it fucking melted, and I'm let's see, a couple of years ago I saw Ministry doing their thing, and I was like, oh, that's cool. It's not With Sympathy, though. I don't think I'll need to see them. They're never going to play With Sympathy again. And then hell fucking froze over. So I'm actually wearing the shirt from his current tour where he redid a bunch of it and Twitch with the With Sympathy hand on it. So yep. I love this album. Almost everything except maybe What'd He Say.
Yeah, that's definitely the low point for me too.
Yeah. The Ooga Booga, What'd He Say?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I mean, I kind of get what they're trying to do there, but it's definitely very much the standard English-speaking world kind of looking down on anyone who doesn't speak English, as much as they're trying to evoke this idea that it's not about words are misunderstood and only dancing is transcendent, which I also think is a really naive sentiment, but it's at least more positive than the sort of feel I get from the chorus of the, why don't you just speak English, you dumb barbarian?
Is that the Do the Etowah song? Is that the one you're talking about?
Etowah? No, that's the one. It's What He Say.
What he say?
Bargle, bargle, bargle. What he say? What he's.
It's buried on the B side.
It's very bad. It's really the only track on the album I didn't like to some degree.
Yeah, it's aged horribly. It's like that Danny Kaye, I'd Rather Be in the Jungle song.
The one in Fallout?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Bonga, bonga, bonga.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
is that the one that has like the breakdown in the middle that sounds like a Final Fantasy song?
I don't think that narrows it down. That's like half the album.
Let me pull up the track list.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
continue.
before we start going track by track, though, just to give a little bit of background and context on With Sympathy and why it's kind of anomalous in Ministry's discography is this was their debut album from 1983. They had put it out on Arista Records, and the label had promised to make them the next Joy Division. And Jorgensen was like, hell yeah, that sounds great. Love Joy Division. I want to be the next Joy Division. Like, get me out of the slums, like that. And in retrospect, he said that the label was just trying to make Ministry into a gay teeny bop band. But the fake British accent, apparently he was living in London at the time, and it had just kind of been inserted as a thing. And this release did not come out to good reviews. I think Rolling Stones was the only one who said, like, of the major outlets who said anything, vaguely positive. But a lot of it was like, it is uninspired synth pop. It's unoriginal. It's like everything else. And it only sold about 100,000 copies. And I think it made it to like 94 on the music charts. So it did not do as well as their like debut single, which was released on Wax Trax. I'm Falling, which that got up to like 45 on the music charts, and that was a big part of the reason why record labels started chasing Ministry. But according to Jorgensen, he didn't have any control over who played on the album. So they added backup vocalists that he didn't approve or necessarily want, and instrumentation and like that sort of stuff that he may have not necessarily want. Because also during this period where he wrote the songs for With Sympathy, he had written a bunch of other songs that had later turned up on Twitch and Land of Rape and Honey. So he had that in him. He's like, he's the two wolves in him, I guess. But this had come out really synth heavy because he was very into keyboards at the time. But he said that the label had stifled him, from the album to they made him cut his hair to choosing how he dressed, everything.
That English accent has to be the record company.
That I couldn't find any information out on because I was very curious. But he did not want to tour this album, but he did end up touring with like the Police and Depeche Mode and a number of other like big name like kind of synth pop acts. He was upset about it. He came back and he sued Arista Records to get out of his contract. And then in 1984, signed to Wax Trax, who had released the single. And that was when you, like, of course, the big shift in sound from like this debut. So that's a bit of the context on that. And Jorgensen completely disavowed With Sympathy for about 40 years because it put such a bad taste in his mouth. He hated it, hated the entire process of it, hated absolutely everything about it. But recently he has actually made peace with it being part of his career. He says it's why he's I think his words were a maniacal douchebag. So he sees the value it has had in his shaping of who he is as an artist. But a big part of the reason why he made peace with it was because he was out in LA and he saw a Ministry cover band that only covered With Sympathy. And
Wow.
He was like, wow, the crowd is really vibing to this. Like, people are reacting like so positively and so strongly. And here I've been refusing to sign any copies of With Sympathy unless someone brings me $1,000, which he always then donates to charity. So he went back and he listened to it and he was like, well, I still hate it, but I can see what people are finding in it that they are resonating like with. So in August of 2023 in Dallas, Texas, they played for the first time since that initial tour tracks off of With Sympathy. And at the time, like, this was a really big deal. And, he did some interviews and he said, like, yeah, if the tracks were re-released, there'd be more guitar driven. And yeah, in March of this year, he did re-release some of the tracks on Cleopatra record, on which, just jumping ship for one shit label for another to another for like With Sympathy. But it's called The Squirrely Years Revisited.
Mm-hmm.
And he has recorded several tracks off of With Sympathy. The only two tracks that I'm really going to mention, because honestly, I think that the entire With Sympathy, just in general, the original release was incredibly bland, with just synths in stupid places, and I hated it. And the British accent, of course. But particularly, I want to talk about Revenge and I'm Not an Effigy. Like, Revenge is a track that I've been beaten over the head into liking.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's played at like every single throwback event. And it's, it's like 90% perfect. You can peek under the hood of the song and you can be just like, there's some real raw energy here. Like, the The lyrics are fun. I mean, you still have the excessive synth, but it's not as sinful as
It's nice and simple too. It's not
it
an
is.
overblown synth. It's basically just a light triangle wave.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly.
That's funny
heading
because I
towards
didn't like that about it. But continue.
Oh, unlike I'm Not an Effigy, which is the synths in it, like the synths across this entire album, they are unnecessary and oftentimes like they are discordant with
Mhm.
everything else that's going on in the song. And they just feel so slapped on and they're terrible. So these revisited tracks, in my opinion, they're terrible, allegedly.
Mhm.
So these revisited tracks, he re-recorded them with Ministry's current industrial metal sound, right? So Revenge, a big part of the reason why I liked that song was because Jorgensen's vocals were on top and it was so simple, but
Mhm.
in the re-recording, like you have a lot of chugging guitar and he's buried in the mix, and it's honestly, in my opinion, a really disappointing re-record, and that one is still worth listening to with sympathy. But I'm Not an Effigy. I think that the version that they re-recorded in their current style is much, much better because they kept all of the best synth parts. Jorgensen's vocals are mixed better in this one, in my opinion. And what made the song interesting, what made With Sympathy interesting that he kept was a lot of that, like raw energy. And that was really nice. Also, there were bonus points because for the re-recordings of those tracks, he dropped the British accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
When he played Effigy live, he also had like kind of a graphic of his face and With Sympathy going on and burning it as
I remember
the
you
song
sharing the
rolled on.
video.
Yeah.
That was great.
One of my bandmates always used to call Effigy the "I just learned a new word" song.
It is very much a lot of very clear examples of what an effigy is, with the understanding that the listener doesn't really know what an effigy is.
But he's
Yeah.
not one.
And
No.
then, ironically, burning an effigy of the album, like, it's really educational all around. But
Mhm.
I still don't like this album. That's my
Fair.
final takeaway. Is
Okay.
I came back to it and I still don't like it. I like parts of it. I respect some of the like Motown vibe,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but otherwise it is just, I don't know. There are much better examples of that sound from that time.
Well,
There
yeah,
are.
I mean,
Does
I did like Effigy. I did think it was fun and dancey, but it's certainly not original. It's definitely derivative, and there's nothing impactful or unique in that way. But just from a dancey kind of standpoint, I did think it was fun.
Yeah, my summation was nothing mind blowing, but generally fun and inoffensive. I enjoy it, but it's not something I go out of my way. I do frequently have Work for Love pop into my head and get stuck there for a while, every once in a while, randomly. That's really the only one that really
Oh, it's
tends
so
to do that
catchy.
to me. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just, it's always
yeah.
the chorus part too, the way they have the start stop. It's to do the Work for Love line. It just constantly gets stuck in not constantly, but frequently gets stuck in my head.
Yeah, the like clap your hands and shout work thing is so corny, but it was always, it's been stuck in my head for a while. I thought I was like singing it in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
It actually reminded me a little of the Ghostbusters song for some reason, even though it doesn't really sound the same.
That's fair.
I always find this album easy to point to when I'm trying to make a point about like a more authentic, quote unquote, 80s sound. Since it's so derivative,
Yeah.
you can hear the lingering disco influence on like poppy dance music in the 80s on this album.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always like, all these Twin Tribes and She Passed Away type bands, when they're mining 80s, just completely leave out that funky disco thing. And like Male Tears is one of the only 80s throwback sounding bands.
I also
that picks
wrote down
that up.
Male Tears. Yeah.
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 Obviously, they're mining like a whole slew of stuff like
Yeah.
Pet Shop Boys and stuff too. But like, you can really hear a disco pop thing on this album.
Yeah.
And there's some of that in Sisters of Mercy too, on like Bloodland and stuff. Anyway, that's my persistent rant is like, you want to sound 80s, more fucking disco.
Yeah. Well, like, yeah, I wanted to tell her was really funky. It kind of reminded me a little of Michael Jackson, actually, kind of like a mainstream pop radio kind of
Mhm.
sound. I also thought that one was really catchy as well. I really don't like the synthesized trumpets that were on that song and a bunch of other ones. I know they were so big in the 80s, but I collapse into myself like a dying star when I hear them.
Yeah, I'm real hit and miss with synth brass. So whenever I'm going through like synth patches on some random synth, anytime I get to a synth brass patch, I always go right into Axel F.
On the
That's the
Squirrely
best
Years
synth brass
tour,
song.
he had a skeleton mariachi band pop up on the screen and do a doot 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 when the horns came on.
Nice.
Yeah, Revenge, that was the one. So that was the one I listened to the most. Obviously, that's like the big hit. That was the one song I had high expectations for in my head because I really haven't listened to that in years and years. And it didn't really live up to that. I just thought it was a little bit slow. And I really liked the synth line, but it felt like it could have used a little more complexity. I mean, it's super catchy. It was still really good, but that was the one where I was sort of like a little disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's almost a raw waveform. It's got very little effects on it. It doesn't have a lot of complexity to it. The only thing it does is when it holds notes, it goes into a really nice subtle vibrato, which makes it not bad. But I really like that, how it goes up high and then goes into a nice vibrato to make it at least have some interest. But yeah, it's very, very simple. And I do find it very engaging because of that. But I also hate it when it's not doing the lead solo and it's just doing those little like squelchy, chirpy things in the background of the verses. I find that to be annoying.
It's also the only one with a video off this album. You want to see him with
that makes
clear
sense.
skin and a spiky haircut.
Yeah.
Because he talks about in the Rolling Stone interview how he was like a hippie kid that was squatting in a shithole with snow coming through the roof, and they cut off all of his hair and told him how to talk and what to do and how the song should go and everything. So he's like dark Billy Idol or something. Video.
Yeah, no, like I said, they wanted to make him into a gay teeny bop icon.
Oh yeah, I found there was a YouTube comment on the What He Say song that said that the part that I thought sounded like a Final Fantasy battle song, someone said it sounds like something off of Jabba the Hutt's sail barge, which I thought was also very good.
Okay.
This predates that though.
I'm gonna have to listen to that again.
Nobody out of the war. The water to get on.
I want to find this Final Fantasy battle music part.
Yeah, that was my first thought. My favorite song was probably actually "Say You're Sorry," just because I'm a sax goth through and through, and it's not like, I mean, it's you get a melodic synth and pair it with this soaring saxophone, and you'll have me every time. And you could replace the vocals with the saxophone, and I'd still be happy.
Yeah, I pretty much said this is a very reminiscent Depeche Mode mixed with sexy sax goth song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the way the synth swells in under that sequencer at the opening. And get that atmospheric, twinkly stuff going on as the sax comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Really great intro.
Last two songs, so She Should Have Known Better, or Should Have Known Better. This actually reminded me of I don't know if you guys have ever heard of or seen The Mind's Eye.
The animated, the 3D
Yes.
animation thing. Yep.
Yeah, it was. So this came out before that because that was an early 90s
Yes, that was a 90s
art film.
thing.
Yeah, but it was I saw that first because I saw that as a kid, so that's why I have the reverse association. It was like this very early CGI technology for essentially it was a music video that ran for like 40 minutes, and you ran through a bunch of different scenes and scenarios. Like you had birds falling in love with fish, or metallic dinosaurs running through a desert, or like weird geometrical dystopian landscapes, and it had a soundtrack over the whole thing. And this is basically what that sounded like. So that I kind of got weird nostalgic vibes. But I did not like. I thought that song blew. To be honest, I didn't like it. But
yeah, it does sound like 90s childhood with all the lingering 80s media. For a while, just like any electric piano had to come on when there was like a serious emotional talk scene. Like for whatever reason, I associate that with Full House. Like, Dad's got to come talk to me and give me the lesson.
Sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But even that's like lingering from the 80s.
Yeah, I've never liked electric piano.
We had a lot of that in church.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Trying to elicit certain emotions. Last track, She's Got a Cause. I did like that track. It feels kind of whimsical and bright, almost like Labyrinth adjacent. Just with this like fun syncopated rhythm. It feels kind of sunny to me. But then there's this undercurrent of like something a little uncanny or sinister. Oh, Here We Go. I didn't mention that one, but I thought that was that was just more shitty synthesized brass instruments. So
it's really funky though.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say I don't really have anything good to say about any of the rest of it.
Say bad things. That's fine. I don't care.
The synth sucked. The synth was so intrusive and so terrible, and my sensory processing issues just made me go, hate it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
I think for me, like, I kind of expect the overbearing bad 80s synthesizers on this because that's what this genre is about. It's when I listen to something like Leonard Cohen where he chose like the shittiest Casio keyboard sounds for these beautiful songs that I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, some of his musical choices, he's a songwriter, he's not an instrumentalist. I love Leonard Cohen, but yeah, especially in the 80s.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't gel with most of his musical accompaniment.
But you listen to like Depeche Mode and you expect like some really bad synth choices to be woven in.
They somehow make it all work. Who knows?
Yeah. It is of a piece instead of intrusive like harmonica riffs on the keyboard over a sentimental song.
Depeche Mode was a band that I also really disliked for the longest time until I was beat over the head with it so often at like goth events. And now I'm kind of okay with it instead of being just like, do not.
Yeah, there's a phenomenon where like familiarity kind of breeds, if not active like, then at least passive acceptance. And I was kind of curious if everyone's experience on these albums would do that. That's why they put so much money into marketing to beat you over the head with top 40 songs.
See, I find it goes
eventually it'll get its hooks in you. It can, maybe, for sure.
Usually the song that gets beat into my head is usually the ones I begin to dislike. Like all the really popular songs from bands played at Goth Nights are usually the ones I don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Let me get some obscure track. I don't want to hear This Corrosion again. I want to hear Ribbons.
Yeah. When
I like Ribbons so much.
So do I.
Yeah. Just before I got on the recording, my fiance was talking about how she always thinks she hates Bauhaus. And then it's like, oh, actually, I'm just sick of hearing Bela Lugosi's Dead and the cover of Ziggy Stardust because they go all over the goddamn place, but DJs never play it at Goth Night. Partially because it's not always the most danceable band.
Yeah. No, at the
Or
goth night I was
deep
at on Saturday, Sarah played Passion of Lovers,
Yeah.
which is a good track. It's not played that often.
We get Passion of Lovers and She's in Parties a lot here.
She's in Parties
that's
is what I hear
all.
the most. Which that is one of my favorite songs of theirs. So that one hasn't been beaten into the ground for me, but it does get played a lot. I don't usually hear Passion of Lovers very much. I'd like to hear Hollow Hills more.
Mm,
Ooh. that's
Yeah.
nice.
great
Yeah.
song. Not danceable.
I will dance the shit out of that song. I don't know what you're talking about, but then I don't dance to danceable songs if I can help it. I find them kind of boring to dance to.
Yeah, it's a good, we can all catch our breath and go get another drink song. While the handful of introverts collect cobwebs from the ceiling.
I don't know. It's not long enough for a go get a drink song. Although I guess there's a difference between go get a drink song and got to take a bathroom break song.
That is one of the things that I often lament about goth clubs is you just don't get the more odd, weird songs. It has to be the quote unquote danceable, you know. And I do think you're missing out on a lot of what goth is by only listening to that stuff. But
Yeah.
I think about that a lot with my death rock band because like part of what makes bands popular, say Male Tears for instance, is like they are fun, they're danceable, they're catchy. And then if you're doing a bunch of like D-beat, angry, weirdo songs, like that's not going to get a lot of spins in the club. Not going to get a lot of radio play.
I was talking with so at the club night on Saturday, which they did their annual Neo reunion was Saturday. So I don't know if either of you are familiar with Neo, but it was
Yeah,
an
I
old so old stalwart club from the early 80s that closed in 2015, I think. I think they said this was the 10-year anniversary of the closure. So that's where she got her start DJing goth nights. And so I was just chatting with her while the other DJs were playing because they usually go through, since Neo was all sorts of things. They usually have several DJs that do different genres. So they'll go through a punk time, a new wave time, an industrial time, and then Sarah's goth set is the closing out. And she was lamenting, saying that she remembered it back in the 80s when she was playing at Neo. She tended to do a little more ethereal stuff. That was kind of her thing, but she doesn't feel she can really do it in a modern club anymore because people don't dance to that. And that's what I'll happily dance there. And she's like, I know you will. That's why I was talking to you about it.
You're a weirdo among weirdos.
I love the ethereal shit. I wish. Well, so I guess Azy, you shared your closing thoughts. We can do any other overall comments we had. I give the album some props for being so fucking goofy, and I don't know if that was the intent.
Unintentionally goofy. I don't.
I think it was trying to be serious and like even a lot of the tracks I think are about breakups, which also makes sense as like trying
serious
to be a
subject matter,
pop hit kind of thing.
What do you say?
Argle, Bargle, Fargle.
Considering like how compared to the other albums we're talking about and how seriously those take themselves, I can't listen to this specific album and take it seriously. It's just a silly little guy. I know the synth is dated, but once I could kind of like get past that and appreciate it for what it is, I did think it was fun hearing these like second-rate Animotion sort of melodies. For anyone who remembers Animotion, it didn't hold up to my memory of the album because I really did at the time think like, wow, this is such a great electronic album. But it's so unserious sounding to me that I enjoyed it for that. Sorry, Azy. But I love that you
had no
hate
comments.
this.
Like, that's whatever. I hate a lot of things. I'm allowed to have opinions.
I mean, like I said, my opinion was more or less the same. It was fine. It was inoffensive, and it was generally fun. I like synth stuff, so it worked for me. But it's not an album I would go to for active synth work. I have my other synthy bands that I like to go to, and some of them are even sillier, like the Sparks or Yellow.
See, I don't. So just have like a little soupçon of goth flavor on bad synth pop, and I'm like, that's the only album I need. Good. I will say, I thought the redo of it, since I saw the new touring of it, kind of thought the industrial metal sound was a little more plodding and brutish and a little less fun and catchy. But
yeah,
it worked better live than it does on the record.
I can imagine.
It's often the case.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because the redo record has a bunch of other poppy, ridiculous songs from that era. I'm not sure how much he had input on them, but I assume they're part of what got him the record contract for With Sympathy. So, like, I Would Do Anything for You is one of them. And it's very much in the same corny vein as With Sympathy. But
yeah,
it's
I
still...
definitely need to listen to that redo again because I basically just quickly listened to it after it was posted in the chat.
Yeah.
Mostly focusing on the tracks that are on With Sympathy because I was doing a compare and contrast thing. I didn't like Work for Love in the repurposed version. But I do. I mean, I love it. Obviously, it's my favorite song on, With Sympathy.
Yeah. I don't know. Go see it if he's still touring it. It's a trip. He also did a bunch of redos or revivals of songs off Twitch. Is like one of his Bush Senior era albums, railing against the Gulf War. Those were all really good live, but they were more the industrial metal sound. I think he also threw in some Revolting Cocks tracks on the tour. It was pretty good.
That's fun. I like the Revolting Cocks.
Yeah,
I have seen them live. I enjoyed that.
I saw them without Al.
Cock on the cover of the Squirrely Years too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Possible AI. Just par for the course with Cleopatra these days.
Yeah.
But I agree with that.
Are we all out of sympathy for this one?
Yes, very much so.
Move on.
sitting for neurotic girls today.
Well, I'll introduce my pick for the album, which was the 1980, I guess, eponymous Killing Joke album. The famous one that has the image of the Irish rioters escaping British CS gas during the Troubles.
On a peace wall.
Yeah. I picked this album because as is the theme of the episode, I bounced off this hard back in, I think it was around 2002, and I never really returned to it. And whenever people bring up those, who's your least favorite goth band that everybody else likes kind of questions, Killing Joke is always the one that I mention because I never really gave them another chance. I do really love their song Love Like Blood.
Oh, Love Like Blood. Okay.
Which is not on this album, but that's one of the goats. I do love that song, but other than that, I never really went back and listened to any of their other stuff. So I was excited to see if I should. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, as a fan, I would say there are better albums you could have gotten into them with than the first one.
Mm.
Yeah, Pandemonium is also pretty bad, so don't bother with that one. That's the one I bounced off of.
Okay. Yeah, I think I bounced off this one because for two reasons. For one, it sounded too much like classic rock to me, and at that point in my life, because my dad listened to a lot of 50s, 60s, and 70s music, anything that had a whiff of that, I was not interested in. And then I also, at the time, remember the first track and a lot of the other tracks being kind of an industrial metal vibe, which I was really not a big fan of back then, with the like industrial and then like heavy guitar riffs and stuff. And I have softened on that over the years, but I really did not like that at the time.
That's what Pandemonium was really. That was in the center of their industrial metal heyday, where I am a fan of industrial metal and did not like it.
Okay. I did find this funny comment review. I don't know if this was on YouTube or somewhere else, but this is from 2011 that I thought would be worth reading. Someone said, I love reading kids sneering reviews of albums recorded before they were born. It's humbling. It kind of reminds me of when I was a dick. You kids slag off the Sex Pistols, and if they were recording what they recorded in the here and now, your reviews would have some merit, but they're not recorded now, so it's probably wiser for you whiny little twerps to refrain from commenting and stick to Green Day and Good Charlotte.
That's also before those kids were born.
Yeah.
Not to make you feel old.
In context, this was an album that changed the musical landscape at the time it was recorded. Commentary that Metallica do better versions of their songs are beyond stupid. And then he goes on from there. But I did think it was interesting that every one of these albums, there were YouTube comments saying how they were their best album, which is insane, having re-listened to With Sympathy again. I think that's an insane thing to say.
Yeah.
But that's, one of the things I read consistently online about Killing Joke is the claim that they invented a new sound and influenced a lot of bands. This was all research I did before listening to it. And so I was, getting excited to get into this, wanting to listen to the album. The production of the album was self-produced on purpose because they only wanted an engineer who could put their technical knowledge into what the band wanted, the way the band wanted it. And so they recorded it live in the studio as basic as possible with no overdubs, because they didn't want the mixing to color the album.
Respect for that.
It's around contemporaneous with Joy Division too, when they would have been forming. I kind of hear it in the production, the way it's sterile and electronically influenced, even though it's hard rocky too.
Yeah, I mean, they were definitely one of the, the early post-punk emergent bands, so they definitely have a lot of similarities in that sort of sound.
Yeah, they're cited as influencing Nine Inch Nails and Ministry, actually. And I guess the only other...
Yes, Jorgensen says that Killing Joke is a big inspiration, so...
Yeah.
It is very proto-industrial in the way they approach their rhythms.
I think the other important point that gets brought up about Killing Joke, too, is just the fact that it is overtly political. I mean, they do talk about, death and human nature and stuff like that, but they talk a lot about politics and pulling from, Marxist theory and people like Theodore Adorno of the Frankfurt School. There's also occult stuff in there with the Kabbalah. I think one of the albums, I can't remember which one they recorded in the pyramids or tried to record in the pyramids because of
natural reverb.
Yeah, and just some occultist spiritual connection there.
There's a documentary on them where they talk about how they started the band off with a occult ritual. And weird side story that at one point Jazz Coleman thought the world was ending, which when you're facing nuclear war every other year seems a little less crazy. And he went off to Iceland because he thought it was the magical island of Cytheria. And he started a side project without talking to his bandmates. He just dipped. And that side project went on to become the Sugar Cubes, which gave us Bjork.
Incredible.
Yeah. Talk about weird influence.
Yeah. It reminds me of how my aunt and uncle moved to New Mexico because they thought when Y2K happened, the rapture would happen. And so they moved to some self-sustainable acre, I don't know how many acres it was, up in the mountains to avoid the Antichrist and stuff. And then when none of that happened, they were like, I don't know what you're talking about. We just wanted to move to New Mexico. What are you guys talking about?
Or wouldn't they be concerned they didn't get raptured?
I think in, what are they, Seventh-day Adventists or something? I don't think they believe that the rapture happened at the start of the apocalypse, that it was something that happened later. There's a few interpretations of that, but yeah. Anyway,
only the good die young. There. Anyway, Sorry.
So I don't know. What are your guys' histories with this album?
I picked it up at a thrift shop long time ago. And I remember loving it at the time. I haven't gone back and listened to the entire album as a whole in at least a decade. So this was a trip, and I found I didn't like it as much as I used to. But there are still songs on it that I think absolutely rip.
Hmm.
Yeah, I pretty
Similar.
much picked it up, I think, after reading Rip It Up and Start Again, because I was revisiting a lot of the post-punk bands. Like I said, I first introduction I had to Killing Joke was Pandemonium, which was an early album I bought back in the late 90s, because it's their 94 album. And some of it kind of intrigued me, or at least was just interesting or weird enough that it grabbed me. But overall, I did not like that album, so I didn't listen to it a whole lot. And so I didn't really give Killing Joke a second try. And they also weren't a band that I ever really heard played out in clubs very much. I never even the song In the 80s, which is one of their bigger hits, that and War Dance, I really never heard out anywhere. So I had nothing really driving me to listen to the band again after bouncing off Pandemonium. But yeah, when reading through Rip It Up, Start Again, it talked about, their place in the early history of post-punk and all that. So I did revisit them, and I overall did enjoy them, but not necessarily this album. And overall, the main thing that really drives me against the band in general is I don't like Jazz Coleman's voice when he's doing his more harsh, distorted vocals.
Oh, sure.
I find it pretty annoying. His clean vocals are fine. But his harsh vocals are pretty bad. And then, of course, War Dance, not only is he doing harsh vocals, but he's got them with the massive, I don't know if he borrowed the gristleizer or whatnot, but he's got something like that going on with his vocals. It just makes them sound even stupider.
I
Demonic
think it
robot.
might be a chorus or a double track or something, or other people singing with them.
It's a chorus double track with, I think, a trum on it, because it's just like, it's really burbly and kind of annoying.
I didn't mind it. I thought it provided this like a disconcerting contrast to the guitar melody, which I think it's trying to be off-putting, right? Because it starts with that horrible dentist drill noise that I feel in the back of my skull, and the guitar I thought almost had a bit of a Skinny Puppy quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting thing, if you're a gear weirdo, probably a musician, is Geordie Walker always used a big, fully hollow-bodied 50s Gibson gold top thing with P90s in it. So the reason they switched over to solid body electric guitars in most rock music is the feedback is fucking insane, and P90s are really noisy single coils, and he had these big 10-inch speaker arrays, and part of their percussive sound is him kind of almost treating the guitar chords like a drum beat, because you have to like hand mute the strings or it's just going to go crazy with feedback. So when he's playing all these bizarre riffs and thumping chords and stuff, I think that is part of what goes into their guitar sounds. Amp feedback in the room makes every note sustain forever into feedback, and thumpy hand muting is the only way to make it not go nuts.
Think musically, my least favorite aspect of this album, there are a couple songs, or maybe more than a couple, there are a couple songs where I think it works and I do like it, but I didn't really like the drums because they're really tight and muted. It's kind of, it's very sort of 80s percussion, I think, but there's a tonality to the drums that sounds dated, and I'm just not a fan of.
Okay.
Which is interesting you say 80s, because it's 1980, so it would have been like freakishly cutting edge, because they're
Right,
basically
yeah.
in the 70s epilogue.
I mean, that might be
Yeah,
why
well, I do-
the drums are so thin to you, because the 80s are known for the big super reverb snare, which is not thin.
Yeah, it's more like the toms that I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's definitely, I did hear, I'm not super familiar with 70s, but I did hear kind of like a, especially with Requiem, sort of like a Black Sabbath sort of sound, which it it doesn't really fit in
It's funny, I
Hawkwind.
just
Oh
heard
yeah,
Hawkwind. I just heard Hawkwind. The entire time I was listening to it, I was just like, wow, I wonder if this band likes Hawkwind.
Oh, probably. I think most of those British
Yeah.
bands, Hawkwind it's kind of like Black Sabbath. It's just a sheen in all their influences, like
Yeah.
Tubeway Army and Joy Division are totally biting off Hawkwind, and half their sound is like from Lemmy, who got kicked out and then started Motorhead. And I always think Killing Joke is in a way like the gothy
Yeah.
Motorhead, because they're so unique that so many different genres draw on them, like punk and metal and goth and industrial.
yeah, and it was interesting just thinking about them in terms of post-punk, because they don't sound like other post-punk bands at the time. You know, like New Model Army or Chameleons or whoever.
Yeah.
There's not much of a crossover there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I liked about post-punk, though, is when you listen to a broad enough range of it, you do find that it's not, I mean, there was, especially during the post-punk revival, there was this sort of gravitating around a single sound from post-punk, pretty much defined by Joy Division, and everybody's playing that, and that is not what I loved about post-punk. It was just this weird reaction to punk that was very diverse and bizarre.
Bunch of art students.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the variety in post-punk, and I dislike the fact that post-punk seemed to have gotten pigeonholed into a very specific sound that is some of the popular elements of post-punk, but it's not indicative of the genre as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always my complaint with a lot of the post-punk during post-punk revival is that, wow, you revived the sound, but you did not
It
revive
wasn't
the
a post-punk
spirit.
revival. It was like a Joy Division and Happy Mondays revival. And that's it.
Yeah, that's why if you went and listened to what people call
Right.
hipster post-punk, that's where you found a lot of that diversity. There's a lot of good stuff in quote-unquote hipster post-punk.
What, like Interpol?
No, not like Interpol.
I almost picked that album because I can't
Like,
get I just go back to Joy Division. I feel like that rant about all the post-punk sounding like Joy Division derivative is dated now, because now everyone sounds like goddamn Twin Tribes.
It's all cyclical.
Oh, of course it is, but like I literally was at a festival where I saw Twin Tribes before they took off, and all the other post-punk bands they played with sounded like Joy Division derivatives, and now they all sound like Twin Tribes derivatives.
Yeah, which is really a sort of an
Which are
anti-post-punk
full of
thing.
plastic, apparently.
Right. I should say it's kind of an anti-post-punk thing, because, like I said before, when I think of post-punk, I think of bands that don't sound like anything else. They're just weird and unique. I mean, Devo is not like the B-52s, is not like Joy Division, is not like Throbbing Gristle. But they're all kind of in that weird post-punky umbrella.
So Tomorrow's World, the third track, that was my favorite on the album.
That was up there for me as well. I like that one a lot.
It's got this
Tomorrow's World and Requiem.
Yeah. I'll circle back to Requiem. See, I said circle back. I'm getting ready for this corporate job. I'm incorporating it into my identity. We'll put a pin in it. So
synergize.
You didn't
synergize
sell out,
all over
you
my
bought
face.
in.
What'd you say?
I said you didn't sell out, you bought in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. With my body, that is being anyway. We're never going to stop riffing.
All right, there, Karl Marx.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. So yes, Tomorrow's World. It's asymmetrical and creeping. I thought this of all those songs landed much more on the goth side of things. There's still a strong 70s and 80s influence, but it's more of an experimental sort of sound. Like I got a little bit of Gang of Four, a little bit of Southern Death Cult. It actually reminded me I don't know what was making the sound, but the high pitched note melody reminded me of a little bit of the Queen of the Damned soundtrack.
Oh, that
it's an eerie track, so it made sense as like an inspiration for music for vampires. The vocals are sort of otherworldly because not just the reverb, but there's such like a nonchalant confidence, a comfort in how odd it is that it just, to me, it feels unnatural in an interesting way. So I like that. I like the percussion. There's this weird sort of syncopated, animalistic sound that gives a lot of flavor to the track. I like this one a lot. Bloodsport instrumental. I got real big like Oingo Boingo Devo Talking Head kind of vibe to this. You get this big fat disco bass line, chainsaw guitar.
Great. Yeah.
Weird like alien spaceship noises. Go ahead.
Oh, I think for all the bands in England of this era that claim to be really influenced by dub and experiment with all the echoey dubby tracks, like Killing Joke is one of the few that's actually kept that up, and they have a whole bunch of dub remix albums, which I always thought was interesting. And their current bassist likes to dress like a Rasta and puff on a huge spliff while he plays.
Yeah,
Great.
He's a white guy.
The funny thing with this album is I did listen to their 2005 remaster, which has a dub version of Change, which is not really any different than the original version of Change. In fact, it even had vocals, which is not dub. Dub usually strips the vocals. That's kind of the point. So I don't understand what the dub mix of Change was on this remix album or remaster.
They just adjusted the faders on the
or something,
re-recorded it or something.
Barely distinguishable from the other one.
I'm not saying they're geniuses at it, but they do like go so far as to do dub remix albums, or at least what they're calling dub remixes.
Well, I haven't listened to all of those. I'd like to think they do a better job with the full albums. I may have to check those out because I do enjoy a good dub.
It's not really my thing, but I mean, they're not just doing like a dub song thrown in on an album. They're going back and forth quite a bit. Just another odd note about them. Anyway,
I should say
the wait is over.
The Bloodsport also, my son wandered in when that song was on, and he did mention that he really liked this song, so that was kind of fun for me.
I did like the track. I don't have a lot of thoughts. I thought it had a good driving guitar, bass, drum, musical underpinning.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of an anger behind it.
Yeah, there's a lot of anger behind it, which actually made me dislike Jazz's vocals less. They seem to fit with it better, whereas sometimes, because this was one of his more distorted ones, not as bad as War Dance, but he wasn't being clean singer on this particular track, but it really did work with the aggression in the remainder of the instrumentation as well.
It's a good example of their songwriting, which is atmosphere and aggression, and then choruses chant the title of the song. That's well over half their song.
I like the way the bass guitar plays hide and seek. That was fun to me. And I did really like the percussion. I actually thought it sounded a bit more, it sounded a bit like something Witch Hands or Alter Defay would do. It was like more death rock sounding. And I did enjoy that. And more alien spaceship synth sounds, which is fun. But yeah, I thought this one was the most like death rock adjacent.
It's also the one that Metallica covered. So
in
that way, it's probably the first Killing Joke song I ever heard, but when I heard this album years later, I didn't even recognize it as the same song.
Was that on their Garage Days Revisited covers album?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were into Misfits and Killing Joke and a bunch of the new wave British heavy metal bands and stuff.
Right.
But that was also kind of mold breaking because metalheads and punks didn't get along.
No, not at all.
And
The
you
fact
couldn't
that
be into both.
Metallica did a whole punk, well, not whole punk covers, but a lot of punk covers on their covers album was kind of surprising given that particular dynamic.
Yeah. And now time is compressed and kids don't know what year anything came out and it's all old people music.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. Not just the time is compressed, but just the way, the abundance of media, because there's been a rise of celebrities and other people on like Substack and wherever doing lists, like curated lists of books or films or whatever. And those have started to get really popular because people, sort of like tastemakers or however you want to frame that, it seems like especially the younger crowd, because there is such an oversaturation of media, no one knows how to find something that's good. And so I think that might be part of it, that it's just everything is buried under a mountain of content.
Yeah.
I think it's also caused a lot broader variety of what's considered a classic, because it's not just a flash in the pan disposable release that is one of like 10 or 15 that a band put out in one decade. It's all accessible.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure With Sympathy was not meant to be anything more than a stepping stone to the next album,
right,
for a disposable pop band. And like David Bowie put out 1 or 2 albums a year. And when you're putting out music that fast, you're lucky if you have a couple songs on it that are good to tour on and play on the radio, but it doesn't matter because they're just going to keep cranking it out and you're on to the next one.
Yeah, that's almost, that's worse.
Out.
That's worse nowadays though, with the cycle of, keep releasing stuff or you die in the streaming era. So it's all singles rather than albums now.
Well, that's how it used to be way back too.
To a degree, but not with the sort of frantic desperation that it seems to be now.
Well, I mean, there was money in vinyl, and touring was like the loss leader to promote the vinyl and singles and everything. It's kind of looped back around.
A bit. That's true.
Anyway, back to Killing Joke.
So Complication, I didn't have much to say about that. I thought it was good, but
yeah. It's very similar to other songs on the album.
Yep. Change. I did like that there was just a sort of sense of unease to it. I did feel like if you took 1 or 2 elements out of the song, that it could be sort of dad rock adjacent, which is just, I have such a strong association with a certain kind of music and boomers that it's hard not to hear that, but my takeaway from that.
That's interesting. That was my favorite track on the album.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I don't see the sort of classic rock, dad rock thing. A little bit with the guitar work, but
I did. I totally know where Danny's coming from on that.
Just kind of weird. And
who's the dad now, Trey?
Well, I mean, we know you're the dad.
God damn it. Yeah.
But no, I really enjoyed the actual pitch shifted echo that they're doing on the vocal lines.
Yeah, I did like that.
Change.
Yes.
I found that really enjoyable. It was very similar to, I think, what you were pointing out and enjoying in Tomorrow's World, though not with vocals. But they were doing it with a synth line, a very pingy synth, but then it would always fall out in a very heavy pitch bend when it trailed off. And they was doing similar things with the delay on the vocals in Change. And I like that sort of unsteady pitch bendy thing in a lot of
Right,
things.
yeah. Yeah. SO36, I don't know. It was a little too repetitive for me to really enjoy it. Like, I felt like I needed to be high or something. Just didn't do it for me.
I did not like that track. That track took me way out of the entire album because it was just kind of like a chuggy vibe.
Mhm.
Then you get to that track and it's like, oh, I guess I've listened to the first half.
Yeah, I mean, I like
It is like
the
hitting the
start stop
brakes.
rhythm on it a lot. It just had a really interesting drum beat that worked for me. But overall, enjoyed it, but it wasn't a standout.
And then Primitive, super funky. That's all I got.
A lot of funkiness in the rhythms.
Yeah, no, that had a really good drum and bass groove.
Yeah.
Had a good guitar riff as well, or in a guitar riff, but a guitar solo almost thing later.
Yeah. I didn't hate it. I don't tend to like guitar solos, but
I'm hit
I
and
didn't
miss
hate
with them.
Okay, Zoomer.
is that a Zoomer thing?
Kinda. I mean, they refer to like when they bend notes on guitar as boomer
Yeah,
bends.
boomer
and,
bends.
Like
Yeah.
it's you you know how things cycle through. I think we're
Oh,
on
yeah.
the far end from when people were just like obsessed with widdly woo guitars in the 80s
Right,
and
yeah.
fucking endless worship of that.
All that
And now-
Yinghui and
Oh
Satriani.
my
Yeah.
God, it was so up its ass, the guitar stuff for a while.
Yes.
And you can look at a bunch of people on YouTube. They're insane young guitar players, but the way they approach it is vastly different. And
it is.
I would say it's like
It's hyper
far
technical,
from and it's far from the blues based vibey feeling, almost supplementary to the vocals thing of like blues based mid century guitar rock.
Well, I think they're falling into what they hyper overproduced, especially in the metal and hard rock genres. Music has gone where everything is, you know, tempo corrected within an inch of its life, and
Yeah.
everything is this very, very, very pristine, perfectly timed everything, and the traditional bands are having to use studio trickery, but the kids that are learning it and using that as their example are putting all that effort into actually naturally learning how to play things like a machine.
Yeah.
And it's very precise and it's very impressive, but it lost a lot of that sort of musicality, that imperfection, that bluesy soul.
That's interesting. I remember listening to a lot of, this had been college. At one point I was hanging out with a lot of musicians. Well, I guess I've always done that, but I remember listening to a lot of, like what's that band? Dragon Force, like a lot of Dragon Force solos and people losing their minds over that, which is also very
Dragon
just
Force
technical.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's an extension of that 80s mentality of like, I've just got to play the most insane thing possible.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that's where
impress other guitar players.
That's where thrash and speed metal just sort of evolved and became power metal to some degree as well. All three of those just came out of that crucible of louder and faster.
I would bet a bunch of those really impressive young technical players probably got their start playing Dragon Force solos on Guitar Hero.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to like sitting with an LP and figuring out how to like play along to a riff or something.
No, the color dots have to fall from the top. That's how you play.
Not that I'm shitting on it. It's just a different thing entirely. I think it's mixed different too because old-timey guitar was very like mids centered and relied on natural amp distortion and stuff, and the current crop of technical players like a direct into the board kind of sound where it's got a full spectrum sound on top of being hyper corrected for time and everything.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to Killing Joke, where you can hear every track on this album is guys in a room getting into a groove on one riff.
Right,
And
yeah.
that's how you get the
Yeah.
chanty, the title is the chorus mentality on every track. And something like Change, they like the dubby, bassy thing bouncing along.
Well, overall,
Just to bring it around.
Yeah, no, bring it around. Bring it around. Another circumference.
Reach
another
around.
plastic-filled testicle. I can't make that joke because that was off before we were recording, so it makes absolutely no sense.
Mhm.
That makes it
I
the
don't
best.
think I was here for that either.
Oh, good.
I'm as in the dark as the audience.
I guess
Imagination will run wild.
you are in the dark. That is very goth of you. So I understand why I bounced off this album initially, especially from that first track, with more of an industrial metal sound. I listen to it now and I can still hear remnants of like Duran Duran's Hungry Like a Wolf or Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf or whatever the fuck. And I'm sure people are going to be pissed off about me saying that, but it's just, there's a associated like classic rock radio thing happening that is connected to boomers that I have just developed this combative relationship with. And you throw in the industrial metal stuff on top of that, which I do like more now, but I'm still not a huge fan. But especially back then, I didn't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand why I was like, yeah, that's enough for me. But that said, on the whole, I did enjoy this album, and I think the more that I listened to it, the more I enjoyed it. Because some tracks I initially was like not a fan of, and then a few revisits, and I was like, okay, I kind of hear different things going on here, and it did start to grow on me. So I do think it would be worth, listening to the rest of their discography or some of the highlights and sort of giving them another chance. So for me, this was a win.
As a fan, if I wanted to get you into them, I would say skip this one and go straight to Nighttime, which is the one that has 80s on it. But it's got a lot of that beautiful atmospheric stuff. Love Like Blood is on that album.
I fucking love that song.
Darkness Before Dawn.
It's got
but
80s
their
as well.
songwriting. Yeah, that's what I said. But their songwriting got more more sophisticated than just sitting in a room and grooving on a single riff for 3 minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Jazz Coleman actually went on to be a symphonic composer and reinterpreted a bunch of boomer bands like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin into symphonies. He's wildly impressive and a big scary warlock.
And a lot better when he doesn't
he-
open his mouth.
When he's singing,
Yes,
or
when he's singing.
but yeah, I would say Nighttime is the album to get into them, and their other self-titled album from 2003 is also considered a classic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a note when I'm editing and pull those up.
Yeah.
I have most of the discography in MP3s if you want it that way. I don't know how I think they're pretty prevalent on streaming though, so probably easy enough to get to.
Sarah ended up getting YouTube music
Okay.
specifically on your recommendation after we canceled Spotify, so I think that's how I'll probably listen to it.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty easy.
Ryan, please regale us with your pick for this episode.
Hold 1 minute.
No, I will not. I
You
will not. I refuse.
Because I haven't given my final thoughts on Killing Joke yet.
Fuck, yeah, please do that.
So for me, I mean, it was interesting with this album. Overall, the general sense I got from this album was it was my least favorite of the 4 albums that we listened to. That said, when I took it down track by track, most of the tracks I said I liked. Some I said I liked a lot.
Yeah.
So overall, I liked them. it was very hard for me to get past a lot of Jazz's singing. That's the main detriment for Killing Joke for me, as I just don't jibe with his vocal style a lot of times.
Yeah, you're big on vocals too.
I am big on
It's not-
vocals. Yeah. I mean, singing is one of my instruments, so I key on that a lot. Overall, I'd say this album was, I mean, I wasn't a surprise because I generally like Killing Joke. That's why I have most of their discography and I've listened to all of it, but it's not a band I revisit frequently. I'm not a huge fan, but overall I do enjoy them. This album was okay. But there were a lot of good highlights on it. It's just, it was dragged down in the aggregate by how much I disliked some of the tracks, like War Dance.
Right.
It's definitely too long.
Well, there are all the stuff at the end, and I skipped it on every listen because I'm just like, this is just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the track or the 2005 remaster is 13 tracks, but only 9 are part of the official album.
Yep.
And I didn't find the remaining tracks to be markedly different than the originals. Like I already said, with the change dub was nigh identical. The other ones were pretty similar as well. So I'm like, well, what's the point? But I was usually listening to it like in the car or while I was working, so I wasn't really handy with the skip button. It was just kind of playing. I think it's a pretty good album, but it was the low lights were enough to drag it down in the aggregate for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't think I thought about these in context of favorite to least favorite, but I think the next one would probably be my least favorite.
That's fine.
I don't feel so alone, but I'm sure I'm going to get plenty of hate for mine.
I found it the biggest slog, but I would love to hear what Ryan thinks because he's the one who
Yeah,
picked
we
this
can move on
bitch.
to Bowie.
I feel like for it to be a podcast, you have to have your at least one cishet white guy who's approaching middle age and has mediocre opinions. And I was forbade from picking my original choice because Danny and the Goth Lords couldn't handle the fallout. So maybe if this episode's a hit, you can find out what that one is.
Yeah,
But
maybe we'll do a Patreon episode.
Oh yeah, okay. I was just trying to
If you
remember
paywall
what
it,
album
you'll
you were
get less
talking
hate.
about, but okay, I remember now.
Yeah.
Don't say it aloud.
No.
You'll incur the wrath. But I picked this one because David Bowie used to get played a lot before there was a huge catalog of gothy albums to choose from in the nascent days of the goth scene when they were just like weird punks that liked horror movies. So I chose The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, partially because it has some songs that I've heard covered by gothy bands, and partially because it always makes influential lists of greatest albums of all time.
Yep.
It's in the Library of Congress. It's incredibly influential, and I hated every minute of it. I've never been a David Bowie fan. And now a whole bunch of your audience has checked out and turned off the podcast. So go buy some Witch Hands albums and burn them in a bonfire. It'll go on TikTok.
There'll be an
Buy them
effigy.
first. Yeah.
Yeah, I will be an effigy.
I mean, I definitely grew up with a lot of older goths who were huge Bowie heads, and still know many of them.
I know a handful of like Gen X age goths that are way into Bowie, and I know a handful of, I guess, like late millennial Gen Z goths that he's like a god to them.
Yeah.
And this, I feel like the background of the album is more interesting than the album, but I also kind of feel that way about David Bowie in general. Like, I'm not a fan of his music, but I almost find him as an artist and an actor more interesting than his output.
He was great as an activist too, or as an advocate for music. Even if you don't like his stuff, he was a great advocate for especially minority music.
Yeah, I have no problem with him as a person. He seems like he would have been cool as hell to know.
Yeah,
but
maybe not when he was a coke fiend in the White Duke era, but other than that, he was actually pretty awesome.
And a lot of the reaction to this album actually had a lot of like, what is this fucking egomaniac doing? Because in 1972, about the only templates for doing a concept album or a album as a fake band were Sgt. Pepper a few years earlier and Tommy by The Who.
Really? Yeah, I did hear this mentioned as one of the first concept albums.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting.
But the interesting thing about that is it wasn't imagined as a concept album.
That was after that was post hoc.
There are several tracks that are actually from a failed side project he did where he pulled a Sex Pistols and tried to assemble a band called John Corns. That's where, let me look at it. Lady Stardust and I think I wrote them down. 2 or 3 songs off this album are from that project where he just kind of handpicked people to be an image and then realized he chose a frontman for looks over substance and ended up singing himself. But
John Corns has to be one of the worst band names I've ever heard.
Yeah. And it's a terrible band. And the versions of those songs are fucking terrible.
Yeah.
They sound like anemic demo versions of songs I already didn't like. You're bad.
This also was recorded like at the same time as Hunky Dory, and some songs got on that, some songs got on this album. It was real sort of a hodgepodge pick and mix.
And part of the reason for that is I think he already put out an album the same year this came out, and the record company was like, yeah, you're touring on this single and we haven't released this album it's off of yet, but we need you to do another one and keep up the momentum. And he at that point, he was still a long-haired, folky, kind of weirdo. To give you some idea, like Simon and Garfunkel would have been contemporary to this. They were considered rock that your parents hated.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes. And T-Rex started out as Tyrannosaurus Rex as an acoustic, long-haired, folky hippie band. And Mark Bolan had changed it over to T-Rex and started playing electric guitar by this point.
Right.
Roxy Music was forming,
Mm-hmm.
and David Bowie was hopping over the Atlantic and checking out the Velvet Underground, who he worshipped, and that's where he met Iggy Pop, who had already burned out and broken up the Stooges, and the Velvet Underground no longer had Lou Reed. And part of the inspiration for the fake rock star idol concept is he thought he was gushing to Lou Reed because there wasn't a lot of good mass media back then. And it was his replacement in the Velvet Underground he had met and told how much he worshipped and adored. And then he was like, a rock star can be anything I want. And Angie Bowie, his wife, was really influential on costuming and concepts and persona, because at this point David Bowie was a long-haired, folky, sad boy with bad taste in clothes and an acoustic guitar. So she's the one that helped get him the iconic mullet, which he then dyed orange, and all of that formed into the persona of Ziggy Stardust. And he always liked aliens and science fiction.
But he loved Clockwork Orange. That's all over this album.
Yep. All of that went into it.
Yeah, I can see that.
And 72 is really when people were like, I think there's going to be a nuclear war. There are fucking rivers catching fire from pollution.
Yeah, Lake Erie.
Helter Skelter has occurred, and all the hippies are scary burnouts, and cults are forming that terrorized the Western world all through the 70s and 80s. And a few people had publicly come out and said they were the reincarnations of Jesus.
Yeah.
And all of that went into this album that he slapped together from some old demos and some new shit. And a lot of the tracks, I feel like, have a rhythm of just him sitting and strumming with his acoustic guitar, and then that gets translated into all the other instrumentals. And I can kind of hear little aspects of like Bela Lugosi's Dead rhythm section coming from this album. And glam was already forming, but he kind of like put a stamp on it in this way. And glam always had like a kind of 50s rock and roll throwback thing musically, except in silky clothes and guys in eyeliner and big hair and all of that.
Yeah.
And when he helped conceive of like the Spiders from Mars persona for this band he assembled for this album, they were like, I have to go out in public. I'm not a homosexual. I don't want to put this shit on. What are you doing? And then they started getting girls and decided it was great and started showing up late for every gig. So that's like the world this album formed in, slapped together, and then fans kind of retroactively applied a narrative concept to it, even though it kind of comes from the title, but up until about the last minute it was called Round and Round, based on a cover that didn't make the album.
Yeah, and there's so many stories. I mean, David in interviews gave so many different stories of what the concept actually was.
Yeah.
The Wikipedia page is pretty adamant about it being, the popular one is that Ziggy Stardust is an alien coming to save the planet, but there's a lot of ones that like, is Ziggy an alien, or was he just influenced by aliens? Was he human? It's not clear.
He's a starman who's going to blow their minds.
Yes.
And then he gets overtaken by rock and roll excess. And fails, and the album opens with 5 years, as in the world's going to end in 5 years,
which is very
As-
literally exactly what it's about. Very on the nose.
yeah, no subtlety, but also that was totally in the air at the time.
I mean, it's in the air
yeah.
now.
Fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there were activist bombings and assassinations of political figures everywhere. It's still not quite at that point, and the civil rights movement didn't cause a bunch of riots when its leaders died in this time.
Right.
Back then, that was fresh in people's memories.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, I think around 15 years ago, I was like, oh, I need to be more culturally literate. Here's the most legendary David Bowie album. I actually dug up the YouTube video of somebody streaming the vinyl onto YouTube that I watched back then, and I had no recollection of having listened to it other than the fact that I did. And the first 4 listens to this, I had to fight to keep my hand away from the skip button about every 30 seconds.
Yeah, I feel that.
Just skip ahead. Since I've already said I don't like it, I've gotten from that point to, oh yeah, there's that song. It'll be over soon. None of them are that long. And even the handful that I sort of like, it's only because somebody like the Chameleons covered Moon Age Daydream fantastically, or Bauhaus did that banging fucking cover of Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah, pretty neutral on their cover. I mean, it's a pretty straight cover, and I'm not always a fan of straight covers.
I think it
like
makes
it a lot.
The original sound like a demo.
I'm not saying it sounds bad. I like it too.
Yeah.
It just isn't doing anything particularly interesting to me with the source material.
See, to me, a cover either has to enhance the original with everything that's there, or do something totally different.
Yeah, I like it when they fuck with the original completely and do something bizarre. That's my jam when it comes to covers.
Like with my band, we ended up doing that with In the Midnight Hour. No matter what we did to that bass line originally, turn it into a minor key or whatever, it still sounded insanely happy. And we completely ditched it.
Yeah,
the original
I fucking love what you did with that.
Like, even in a minor key, you can't fucking escape that. So had to rip it up and start again.
Heyo.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can go track by track, but even after all these listens and trying to do it last minute before the recording, I struggled to have more than a very basic sentence on each one.
I understand that, yeah. I appreciate the context you've added to this album, because I think without that, it is even harder to appreciate. Even, like I said, I grew up with a lot of people who were huge Bowie fans. I guess people that the audience might know would be, for example, Michelle and Jez, who haven't been on the podcast for a long time, but I love them dearly and they love Bowie. Also, Ashton Knight from The Awakening is a big Bowie fan, but people I had closer relationships with as well were just like, this is part of the history of goth, and I think that's sort of been lost now, just sort of with newer generations, sort of kind of just the way it goes. People don't talk about Billie Holiday much anymore, and I think they should.
She's the great grandmother of goth. I think I said on another podcast.
Yeah,
I can actually go in through it now. Like, off this, I detected a lot of influence from Bowie's vocals, which apparently are all one take because he would get bored. So he would just do some off the wall one take. But I hear a lot of Peter Murphy and Roz Williams on David Bowie.
Yeah, I mean, that's how Peter Murphy got the gig with Bauhaus, is they thought he was just like David Bowie.
Yeah. And
I didn't see the Roz connection, but definitely with their high kind of nasally voice, I can see it there.
Well, as time
kinda
goes
feel
on,
like-
Roz apes Bowie more and more,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I think to me it was like if you were a theater kid trying to be extra tragic, it's like you put a slathering of over David Bowie impressions.
Yeah.
That's how I received it. But the Billie Holiday thing, she was the main influence on Sinatra.
Mm-hmm.
And Sinatra is weirdly the main influence on Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
And like he then went out and had them get the exact same mic set up for Jim Morrison to croon and scream into. And then Jim Morrison's a huge influence on a lot of goth vocalists.
Yeah,
so
very much.
Billie Holiday is the source.
I also appreciated you mentioning that this is considered one of the first concept albums, but wasn't really a concept album, because I was listening through this. I did have this sort of like, because I love concept albums, and I was sort of thinking, oh, this sounds like a concept album, but it's a really shit one. And I had a couple thoughts just on sort of the thematic elements of the album that you did bring up, but I can mention later. But yeah, that makes more sense now, considering it wasn't trying to be that.
I had the exact same thought, Danny. It's just like, isn't this supposed to be a concept album? This is a really bad concept album.
Yeah, it's kind of retroactively slapped on by fans, and part of what's gluing it together is his interest in what it means to be a rock and roll star and aliens. And since those keep coming up, it kind of feels like there's a very loose narrative weaving in it.
And bisexuality, that's another major theme for this album.
Yeah, I did like that a lot.
When this came out, actually, he said he was gay. And his wife was like, could you at least have said you're bi? I'm at home with our kid, you fuckwad.
Great. Cool.
And then his mother was like, Davey, what's going on with this? Don't listen to the press, mother. It's nothing.
Performative homosexuality.
Yeah, I think by the end of his life, he was like, yeah, I really liked the scene and the alternative nature to it. But yeah, I'm a homo poser. But it's cool that he was willing, even if it was for self-serving reasons, to be that fucking ballsy in the early 70s.
Yeah, he was dabbling with being a fuckboy for a while there.
Seems like Trey is the only other person with a real relationship to.
Yeah, I mean, I am a big David Bowie fan, just in general. This is not a favorite of mine of David's albums, but I'm also not, I mean, I've expressed this in previous podcasts too. I'm not really an album person per se, and I don't think David Bowie is a particularly good album artist. He has a lot of very mixed things, and I like him more as a singles artist. I like a lot of single tracks of his. Not always the hits, but a lot of his hits I do like. And the first Bowie album I ever got was a singles collection.
And I think that's back to that same music model where they're just like, keep cranking out content and maybe you'll hit upon a single or two every album.
Yeah, and that is, like you said, that was pretty common technique for those who are releasing albums at a real breakneck pace. And Bowie is definitely not the worst of that, but especially in this era, he was releasing things pretty hot and heavy.
Yeah.
And this is his second album of this year.
Right, yeah. And like I said, he recorded this and Hunky Dory at pretty much the same time.
Yeah.
And it was just picking and choosing which goes on which. And then some tracks at least didn't make it onto the first one, like Velvet Goldmine and Sweethead are technically on this album, but aren't on most of the original releases of it. So I don't know if those were in anybody's playlists for this. It was on one of mine, but not the streaming one.
I listened to the 2012 remaster that lacked bonus tracks.
Okay. Yeah, I have my MP3
I'm
copy,
glad
which
for.
has 16 tracks, including Velvet Goldmine and Sweethead. But the main one I heard on YouTube Music, where I was listening to it when I was traveling, stopped at Rock and Roll Suicide track 11. And that's, I think, the traditional 11 track layout is the original style. And Velvet Goldmine and Sweet Head were removed or cut from it because they were a little bit too racy for the era, is what I was reading about why those were generally not included in most pressings early on.
Yeah, I don't know them.
I know Velvet Goldmine mostly because I watched the movie.
Good movie.
It is a good movie. And is sort of it is about David Bowie and
the glam scene.
Yeah, in general, the glam scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good movie. So this is, I like the album. I definitely like a lot of tracks on it. Starman is one of my favorite Bowie songs, and it's definitely a go-to for karaoke for me.
It's great. It is. That's a great track. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite. It's not my favorite David Bowie song, but it's one of my favorite David Bowie songs. I generally find the second, the first two tracks the first track is completely forgettable. It gets stronger after that.
What's funny is on my notes, 5 years, first track. Feels like the hippie hope has passed.
Yeah.
Melancholy. Soul Love. Track 2, just capital letters. Forgettable. That's all.
There's some things I like about Soul Love, but it's not great. But so as far as general stuff, because I'm not a big album fan, obviously I'm also not necessarily huge on concept albums. Though It does take a concept album to get me to engage with an album as a whole. In general, I need it to be something cohesive. But I'm real hit and miss with concept albums, and I have a pretty negative attitude towards rock opera. Not that this was a rock opera, but I generally dislike rock operas.
Yeah,
I like regular operas, but not rock operas. Though I kind of like Tommy. It's the only rock opera I can think of that I kind of like.
Imaginus by Blue Oyster Cult is and The Wall, maybe.
But those aren't, I don't consider those. Those are concept albums more than rock operas. And I do like The Wall a lot. And I like Joe's Garage. That's an interesting concept album by Frank Zappa.
I think the first time I heard this album was I checked it out from the library.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember I checked out a bunch of his discography, and the album that I enjoyed the most out of all of those was, I think it was Reality.
That's a good album.
That's the only one I actually ever bought because I liked the song Pablo Picasso, and then found out
you never got called an asshole.
That was a Modern Lovers cover.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. But listening back through this album, however, because I never had a strong connection to it. I know people who, adore it, but my connection with Bowie was either Reality or Labyrinth.
Yeah.
But listening back through it, it is so apparent how much Bowie loves beat era poetry and jive, and I learned something absolutely fascinating, and I cannot remember what it was now. It was the Naz is the Nazarene, and it is based off of a beat poet. I'm actually Googling his name right now. It is a beat jive telling of the story of Jesus, Lord Buckley.
Okay, yeah.
And there are in Ziggy Stardust specifically, there are so many sort of lifted ideas from the Naz, and that alone and listening to that is what got me through what I consider to be a slog of this album. Was listening through for the beat poetry connections. Otherwise, it was hard. It was really hard to listen to this album.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the only saving grace for me is half the tracks just completely leave my brain after I've heard them.
Lucky.
My first blush with this was I don't know a lot about 70s music, but I just kept thinking Cheers sitcom music which is
Okay. That's an interesting take from 70s music because that's an 80s. That's a very
I know,
80s
no, I
sitcom.
know,
But-
I know.
So like Billy Joel.
Yeah, but it's just weird how connected, like how many fingerprints Bowie has over the goth scene. You know, it's just
Yeah.
like even Skeletal Family, they took their name from. It's all over the place, and yet I listened to this and thought,
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is not this. I wouldn't say this is where. I mean, it was because apparently Starman was one of the nexus points for Bauhaus. Seeing that on Top of the Pops, and obviously they covered Ziggy Stardust. So that's 2 tracks off of this that was pretty formative for Bauhaus. But yeah, I don't see a lot on this particular album that really makes me think of goth so much. You want to look more towards the Berlin era to see some of his darker tracks that
yeah,
start
Yeah.
presaging the
With
goth
Iggy
sound a
Pop.
little bit more.
Yeah, I love what he did with Iggy.
I
Iggy
would
didn't.
Well, yeah.
I would say that maybe some of the influence is more just the general idea that you can create a persona.
Yeah, I think it is the
'cause when I-
theatricality.
Yeah.
Because when I
generalities of
watched,
glam.
when I watched 70s interviews where this was the huge touchstone they wanted to talk to David about, that he was like, yeah, everybody either thought it was stupid or I was crazy or something. And a little bit of it, I think, was the first couple generations of rockers had burned out. The 27 Club had come and gone. And the reason he like quit the Ziggy Stardust character at the peak of its popularity, like Rock and Roll Suicide's the closing track. He was a little afraid of that just taking over his life the way it had with Iggy, Jim Osterberg, destroying himself for the crowds and stuff,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
not being able to go out in public again. Because he's 25 when he does this album, which most people are still kind of forming who they're going to be for the majority of their lives at that.
So Soul Love
So,
thoughts.
forgettable.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
I may not listen to this again for another 20 years.
Reunion show.
I mean, he's really digging into his voice. His very
I do like his voice.
very
on this a
iconic
lot.
voice is
Mm.
definitely showcasing the David Bowie's vocal sound.
Yeah, I really like his vocals here. The biggest sin to me was that I didn't love the saxophone, which is hard for me
pretty
to swallow.
sinful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That was not at all what I would have expected to come out of your mouth after how much you talked about the
I
sax
know.
in
I
Ministry.
didn't expect it.
Inspirations have I none, just a touch of flaming dove. All I have is my love of love. I'm loving, not loving.
I did like there were lots of brass instruments in the song.
Actual
Kinda gave
brass
it, like,
instruments.
A big band vibe. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the tone of the sax. I'm actually listening to it in the background right now. It doesn't feel. It's like it's been rounded off and tamed too much. Doesn't have that
Yeah. It's like
sort of
loungy, smooth.
sax. Yeah, it's a little Kenny G, not so sax goth jazzy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really
fits
well
with the
composed.
theme too.
Yeah.
It's got like a slight hint of a bossa nova beat or something in the rhythm.
It kind of gave me Love and Spoonful vibes for some reason.
I mean, that's pure Motown, which fits with soul. I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it definitely has that similar sort of rhythmic sound, especially with sort of the horn stabs coming in every once in a while, the very muted horn stabs. So I can definitely see that. So I mean, So Love was fine.
Moonage
The
Daydream.
first two tracks, Moonage Daydream was when I thought the album started turning around. I like Moonage Daydream a fair amount. I have a friend who's her favorite song by Bowie. It's definitely not my favorite song, but I do enjoy it.
I
It's
really like the Chameleons version.
That's fair. I mean, it's one of the harder songs on the album too. That one and Suffragette are.
I
Yeah,
like Suffragette City. That is a track that I do really like. And Starman, I do tend to find myself humming along to the first verse.
Mhm.
And by humming along, I mean it'll play in my head randomly and then it'll cut off after it.
That's fair. But yeah, Moonage Daydream is really interesting with the sort of cut up lyric style. It's very abstract.
Yeah, I like the breakdown in the track.
Mhm.
There's string instruments on this one also, which was just what I do like about the album is it manages to be mostly cohesive while also incorporating different instruments and even different genres on different tracks. Which I enjoyed that. That was a positive thing I can say.
This also has a David Bowie penny whistle solo.
Where?
About halfway through.
Huh.
I think that's the breakdown part that I liked.
That might be, but yeah, it's Bowie
it
playing
is.
the
No,
whistle.
it is, yeah.
Keep your electric on me, babe.
Okay.
I'd like Bowie to play my whistle.
I bet you would.
Starman? Or any other thoughts on that one?
Nope, that's it for Moonage.
I wish I did.
Oh, you know what I did? I did say I didn't like the piano very much. It was kind of Elton Johnny sort of
Yeah,
feeling.
That was
There's a lot of
that was
Elton
Lady
John in
Stardust
this.
for me.
Yeah, that one.
Lady Stardust is
Oh, sure.
very Elton John. And I like Elton
Yeah.
John, so I didn't dislike it. But
Meh.
yeah, that one felt very much like an Elton John song.
Yeah, and that's from the John Corn's band too.
Yeah.
But I think I heard mention that Elton John taking off with his insane stage personas was also contemporary to this,
Yeah.
Mm.
as was Alice Cooper pivoting from
Oh, yeah.
gender bending into horror performance stuff. And so this is like Bowie's reaction against both of those approaches. Just trivia.
No, I like it. Okay, standout track, Starman.
Yeah, Starman's definitely my
Starman.
favorite.
Got that Somewhere Over the Rainbow octave leap
Yep,
on the vocals.
it does.
that hooks everybody's ears.
So Life on Mars does a better and harder vocal leap. But yeah, Starman's good.
I mean, it's stupidly catchy.
Hmm.
And that melody, that soaring melody on the chorus is gorgeous. I love that. I like the guitar riff at the end. I don't know. I like the song a lot. I guess conceptually, I didn't, because this is sort of tying in with that spaceman ego rock star thing. I thought
It's kind of regarded as a sequel to Space Oddity, which was his only other big song at the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't like it. It was fine. Conceptually, it didn't vibe with me that much. Both because the idea of exploring, the I guess self-aggrandizing rock star who becomes too egoistic and then harms those around him is sort of like a simplistic trope at this point. And also just the
Right.
space opera thing. I like space and I like the idea of space opera, but I'm generally more interested in like cosmic horror and stuff like that, which Trey, I know you don't like. But the space thing, as much as I like space, didn't really resonate with me either. So,
Well, this is 72 in
Yeah.
England, so it would have
Yeah.
been like pre-Star Wars, but Twilight Zone, Star Trek, Doctor Who, Quatermass Experiment would have been in the zeitgeist.
right.
And Eric von Daniken's alien books about how aliens did the pyramids and all that fun stuff. Those delightful
Well, clearly,
post-colonial.
if white people didn't do
Right,
it,
exactly. That's the whole thing. Is those
Very
primitive brown
influential
people
fiction.
couldn't do this stuff, so it must be aliens.
must be green people.
Yeah.
Still saying that on the History Channel to this day.
Oh yeah, no, that's the
Eh.
inception of ancient aliens. I don't know that bullshit now.
Really.
But I definitely read those books like crazy growing up. I was big into that until I grew up and thought about it for a minute.
Yeah. So, Starman, his theme song.
I don't have any more thoughts until It Ain't Easy. So I don't even know how many
that's
tracks are between.
That's
Is that the next
track.
one? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you're good.
Yep. Is it easy?
It ain't.
I think this gives you your dad
It
rock
covers it.
whiplash.
It's fun. I mean, I did like that there was a bit of we get some country guitar in there. You know, I think this is a cover, isn't it? Or is it not?
Yes, I believe it is. I don't remember who by, but it is a cover.
It adds variety to the album, and I like that. It's short and punchy. Get in, get out. Yeah, it's probably my favorite after Starman. If I had to, I liked it. I was all right.
Yeah, I mean it's very evocative of the sort of country rock stylings of the time, your Kansas and the Eagles and all that. It sounds just like some track. I could never figure out what it is because I initially thought it was, Take It Easy, but no, it's just the fact that they both use the word easy. But then I was thinking, well, there's The Chain, but no, it doesn't really sound like that either. I don't know. It sounded like something, but I couldn't find the original track that I'm like, it's reminding me of this track.
Yeah, I had
never
that on
find what it
something
was.
else. Yeah. Well, I had no thoughts on any of the other songs. I just couldn't. I couldn't.
Yeah. I think all I had on this one was dramatic because I kind of like the jump into the melodramatic chorus, but
Yeah.
don't like this is one of the forgettable songs for me. But and the kind of weird harpsichord French chamber music thing on the verse is kind of quirky. But
Yeah.
I hate his weird reedy
I think
voice
that's Rick
on this song,
Wakeman
too.
doing the harpsichord.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
I don't care about him or his band, to
Fair
be
enough.
honest.
Fair enough.
I think I did see repeatedly that it was a very fast and loose approach, even though he had this whole like visual concept for the band and embraced what became the narrative of Ziggy coming from Mars to prevent the apocalypse like an alien Jesus. All the music was like, here, I wrote this on my acoustic guitar, which I hear on every single track after all these listens is his acoustic. And everything being built on that. He's like, all right, here's some coke or some weed, go in the bathroom stall and write your guitar solo for 15 minutes and we'll hit record kind of deal.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
Lady
the
Stardust.
big track in here. Well, it sounds like we don't have much to say. The big next track is probably Ziggy.
Is it?
I mean, no, that's
Oh,
four
the
tracks
big
later.
next
The
one.
big next track.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Lady Stardust is the Elton John track.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's funny because I started writing. I wrote. I kind of like the social commentary on glam rock and sexuality because I just enjoy cultural reflection or commentary. Period. And then I said as a song, and never finished that sentence. So let's see. Lady Stardust was Elton John. It's
a refined Arnold Corns song. Bleh.
Can't get over that name.
Yeah, it's so fucking bad. But apparently the band was terrible too. So
Yeah.
that's on him. But he doesn't get enough credit for kind of helping to perpetuate the I assembled a band of good-looking people that can't play thing between the Monkees and the Sex Pistols. Maybe because it failed. But that's like his template for Ziggy Stardust.
Mm-hmm.
And the Spiders from Mars. Track after that, Star. And it's like a 50s rock molded show tune about being a rock and roll star
Yeah.
and becoming God. I don't know. Forgettable. Rockstar egomania show tune. Whatever.
With a little doo-wop flavor. Yep.
Yep. Hang On to Yourself, I believe, is the other notable Arnold Corns song. Also very 50s rock, but guitar driven.
Yeah, this one has a very garage rock kind of 50s style to it, but I really don't like Bowie's vocals in this.
And I think it's kind of reminiscent of T-Rex too.
A little bit. He tries for a sort of whispery crooner thing in a lot of it, and I don't think that works well with his particular vocal style.
Yeah. So now we're on to the big title track.
Yep.
I believe this is another one of those guitar things where he just like let the guitarist he had hired for the band loose, and he kind of built it around that riff.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely focused on the
wrote a song about an egomaniacal guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overall, I don't like Ziggy Stardust, but it's never been an absolute favorite of mine. But it's a fine song. I like a lot of the slang usage in it. I think that's fun. Kind of what Azy was mentioning with the sort of beat poet cut up stuff.
I think it was also one of the sources of ire from the Warhol crowd. After he hung out with them, they were like, "You've taken all of our affectations and slang. You're a thief." Whatever. They're all a little up their own asses.
Yeah. Genuinely, yeah. Keep going. I got nothing for you.
Yeah, I don't really have anything other than Bauhaus did it vastly better, in my opinion. But I can also see how if this is the standout on the album, you'd hate the Bauhaus version.
No, I do really love the Bauhaus version.
I mean, I like the Bauhaus version. Like I said, I just don't think they did anything particularly novel with it. But it's a solid cover.
Yeah. Oh, I'm listening to it in the background and can't get over his vocals. Like Azy, kind of feel like Suffragette City is maybe the only track I like. It's not a favorite, but I would throw it on a kind of classic rock playlist.
Yeah, I have that on playlist. Like it ends up getting play whenever I road trip. So like that's the only track off of this entire album that I can say that I listen to with regularity. And I didn't find it from this album. It was like Trey said, from a collection of like singles and greatest hits.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which David Bowie needs that filter.
It definitely helps. Like I said, he's got a lot of really great tracks in his discography, but a lot of dreck as well. You need to go through to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the problem when you are so prolific. It's not all going to be hits.
Yeah, and the thing about that era and approach to the music business is also you kind of hear the feel of every album because everything is coming out of the same time and place, more or less. So some of those filler tracks almost seem like they came from the same idea and went in slightly different directions enough to be a song between the good songs.
Mhm.
Maybe Andrew Eldritch was onto something. 3 albums and get out.
I really like the unreleased stuff he plays too.
Or AC/DC just keep releasing the same album over and over again.
Yeah.
Well, AC/DC just kind of has that Ramones Bad Religion thing where he has a sound, and Motorhead.
Mhm.
I've got a sound. I'm just going to keep doing that
Yeah.
over and over. Jimmy Buffett has literally
Yeah, his
released the
whole
same
career.
album over and over. Just shuffled the tracks around, but it's the same damn tracks. I think he might have a cult because they're all parrot heads, and then they wear the parrot head hats,
they're
and they
clearly-
buy his books and go to his restaurants and drink his shitty rum. He's more of a cult than David Bowie in that way.
Cult of day drinkers.
Yeah, in the tropics.
Yeah.
White people developing skin cancer and liver problems. And appropriating tiki so-called culture from Polynesians. Needs more grass and little umbrellas.
Any closing thoughts on this one?
On Suffragette City, it's the standout if you're not a Bowie fan, I guess.
Hmm.
And then it closes with Rock and Roll Suicide, the acoustic sad boy. Get in, get out, I guess.
Yeah.
Coda to the album. And then what? The bonus tracks are extra spicy. Epilogue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have much to say.
Those
didn't
sure
like
are
this album.
songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
I mean-
are technically songs.
I like the album. I like a lot of the tracks, especially the middle to the end, but it's not my favorite Bowie album.
What is your
It's
favorite
fine.
Bowie album? Did you say?
I didn't. And I don't really know if, I mean, it might be
Not an
Black
album
Star.
listener.
I really do like Black Star.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's fair.
I think that came out around the same time as Leonard Cohen's final album, I'm Dying from Lung Cancer thing.
I mean,
I
they
was like,
both
well,
died the same
definitely-
year, so
Yeah. I was like, well, I'm definitely not going to listen to David Bowie's final album when there's a super dark Leonard Cohen album out. I don't care if you call it Black Star. It's not that guy. Your weird video with your button eyes. I want to listen to a man who can barely string a note together sing about dropping dead.
but yeah, you're right. You Wanted Darker did come out the same year. They both came out when their death year.
Yep. Don't smoke, kids.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
worked so well for Tom Waits though. So
Yeah, well, he doesn't make music anymore, so except for that cover of Bella Ciao he put out during the first Trump administration. That's his like contribution to Antifa.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Anyway, yeah, we've gone far off the David Bowie track.
yeah, a little bit, a little bit.
Oh, leave me alone, you know. Hey, man. Oh, Henry, get off the phone. I got to straighten my face. This mellow black chick's just put my spine out of place. Hey, man. My school is insane. Hey, man. My work's down the drain. Hey, man. But she's a total blam blam. She said she had to squeeze it, but and then she, oh, don't lean on me, man, 'cause you can't afford the ticket. Back from Suffragette City. Oh, don't lean on me, man, 'cause you ain't got time to check it. No, my Suffragette City was out of sight. So it's alright. Hey, man. Oh, Henry, don't be unkind, go away. Hey, man. I can't take you this time, no way. Hey, man. Did you don't crash here.
All right. Shall we move on to the
Yeah,
final?
we can move on.
Oh, what a
to my
palate
pick,
palate cleanser.
to the palate
Please.
cleanser that everybody loved.
Please.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dead Can Dance by Dead Can Dance. The
Off the album.
the album
Dead Can Dance.
self-titled
Off the label, Dead Can Dance. From the tour, Dead Can Dance.
Dead Can Dance, the breakfast cereal.
Dance the
Now with
flamethrower.
posable limbs.
So I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is the first Dead Can Dance album that I
I
heard.
think so.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know it was a very early goth album when I was just getting into goth, because I remember listening to it a whole bunch in the latter half of the 90s while I was going to college and getting into goth music at the same time. And I mean, it didn't sour me of goth music at all, but this album itself didn't really grab me that much. And I mean, the main thing that really turned me off was the first track. I've always hated the first track, and listening to it now, I still hate the first track. And
I don't hate it, but I kind of know exactly what you mean. It's not a good way to start.
no,
For what is essentially your ethereal, world music gothy like debut.
right. Well, the interesting thing with this album is this is the only Dead Can Dance album that is actually a full band, a full standard like goth rock post punk band. They've got a
Right.
guitarist and a bassist, a drummer, and then
Yeah, is it their-
Lisa and Brendan. This is the only album of theirs that was not just Lisa and Brendan with some session musicians.
So it's the only rock Dead Can Dance album.
Yeah, this is actually probably the closest they get to being a post punk / goth band is with this album. After this, they go pretty full on ethereal world beat, depending on what album they're doing, whether it's European plain chant versus African tribal music versus Middle Eastern whatever. They really jump into the world beat ethereal, but this album is kind of their only post-punk album.
It reminded me in that way of
ever understood why they got lumped in with gothic rock until now.
Until now,
'cause
yeah.
Every single thing I picked up was world music.
No, it reminded me, I had the same thought. It reminded me of how Dinah Lachayan's early stuff like Dark Star was much more in the goth rock post-punk sort of milieu, and then they move away from that, and it's sort of like, wow, it's less connected in that sense, but once you see the root of where it came from, it makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the bones of the sort of post-punk goth rock origin do persist through most of their albums, but it's much more buried under world music explorations and sonic ambient experimentation, even beyond the stuff that's part and parcel with goth music and the whole atmospheric aspect that goth music laid over its post-punk foundations that made it its own thing. But yeah, this is their only post-punk album. That doesn't lead me to question, because this was always the band that whenever we talk about the goth umbrella was my go-to band for comparing with a standard. You say, well, you've got Bauhaus and then you've got Dead Can Dance, and what's the unifying factor? Well, this album is kind of the unifying factor there.
And weirdly, I've never heard any of these tracks in a club or on a compilation or anything. It's always Mr. Lovegrove if they get played. Which is well
once
into
in
their
a while, you
world
will
music.
get Wild in the Woods every once in a while. I've heard In Power We Trust the Love and Advocated, and I think I've heard Fortune.
Host of the Seraphim for a melodramatic entrance or intro on something, or just rewatching The Mist. That's about it.
But yeah, this is definitely, I mean, when I first started listening to this for this episode, I was also looking up various reviews of, the popular thing these days, the rank lists, tier lists, to see where this album tended to fall. And it was a real mix. It wasn't like at the bottom of a lot of lists, but it wasn't. It was some people's top. Some people put it in the middle. It was really all over the place.
That's
The
interesting.
consensus was usually middling, not at the bottom, but definitely middling. But definitely saw a couple of review sites or a couple of things that, or reviewers that were putting this as their top Dead Can Dance album. Though I think a lot of those tended to be ones that gravitated more towards the post-punk and rock sound. So they liked that this album was leaning into that, even though it still had definitely the seeds that became the Dead Can Dance that we all know. There's a lot of that in this album, but there's also a lot of pretty straightforward Joy Division-esque songs. You can hear Joy
Like The
Division's
Trial.
atmosphere going directly into this
Oh, yeah.
album.
Yeah, Fortune, big Joy Division.
Yeah.
I think just to expand on that thought real quick before you move on, I did find it interesting. I think I mentioned this earlier, but I read through a lot of the YouTube comments on all of these albums as I was listening to them, and all of them, all four of the albums we picked had people saying that this was the band's best album, or that it changed music forever, or it was formative to their identity. And like, you know, sharing stuff like, oh, I listened to this every day before school, or it was my first concert, or whatever. It's just kind of that sort of thing. And it made me think about, I guess, sort of conceptually, the Facing Nostalgia series is just that it kind of fit nicely into the theme about how we hold on to our experiences from the past as seminal and meaningful for us, and then how that history plays an active role in the formation of our present, and just the lens through which we perceive art and music, which is interesting on its own. We could do a whole episode on like the philosophy of nostalgia or whatever. But I guess my takeaway from that was just to not let rose-colored glasses sort of keep me back from trying to engage in and create new art or find art meaningful in the present moment, and comparing it to like experiences or memories of experiences from the past, because understanding that our history shapes us is important, but understanding why it shapes us is important. And I never want to be that person, and you don't either, Trey, I know from our past conversations, of like falling into that trap of the superiority of the past or a disdain for the present. I've certainly seen that happen and been disappointed with people I grew up with as a kid who were like complaining about adults hating on their music, saying this isn't real music, whatever, and then getting to that age and turning around and doing the exact same thing.
Yep.
It is interesting doing these to see retroactively what has held up and what has fallen by the wayside too. Because part of the reason I picked David Bowie is, as far as goth spaces, he's kind of fallen by the wayside. The last time we did this, Black Sabbath, probably a lot of goths still listen to Black Sabbath and David Bowie, but they're not one of the only things to pull from anymore. They're generations of musicians influencing each other after that to draw on. And it's more like formally codified and less diversely influenced in some ways. Like I was talking to a friend a while back about, I think he's like Gen X, and he was asking what everyone's favorite Susie album was, and all the millennials jumped in and were like, fucking Juju is the one.
Yeah.
And he was like, really? That was like a dud when it came out. What? I haven't listened to that in 30 years. But like, that's got all the spooky shit that people really have tapped into now. And it flopped because it wasn't like a glammy, poppy, polished thing.
What was his
liked at the time.
favorite then? Do you remember?
I can't remember, but it was probably something like Tinderbox.
Okay.
Which is good, but it's like very different flavor of the Banshees.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which album I picked when that I know, Danny, you and I discussed that at one point. I think someone else was involved too.
Most of it was Michelle and Andy. Why did I want to say Andy Richter? Andy Harriman. And I think most of us said Juju, actually.
I did. I mean, Juju
And-
is one of my favorites, though I do have a soft spot, which nobody else seems to like, for the Rapture.
I like the
Okay.
Rapture.
I have a very big
Um,
soft spot for the Rapture.
I remember Skullgirl
Yeah.
saying the glove just to be a hipster about it.
Of course.
When I asked Max Ausgang like what he thought, he had gone and seen them when they were like fresh out of the nascent punk scene that the Sex Pistols exploded, fresh off of them not having Sid Vicious as their drummer at their first show, and just seeing them play little pubs around Britain. And he was like, the scream. Like, I used to have every Banshees album, and now I only have the Scream, because that first album sounds the closest to when they were just starting off.
Yeah, I do
It's
like the Scream a
raw,
lot.
punky.
I like the
Yeah.
Scream a lot
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
It's got some real good songs on it.
Yeah. But anyway, this is about Dead Can Dance.
It is about
we
Dead Can
really
Dance.
got off.
Secret goth band.
Azy, you got any general thoughts about DCD?
I do. This album is something we've put on the turntable a lot at home. So we listen to it a ton.
Recently
Because-
or
Yeah, for this episode or historically?
previously?
Both.
Okay.
Ooh. Hipster.
Yeah. So so we do listen to this album a lot in my household. It sits right next to the record player, like on our little shelf, but I appreciate it for all of the very atmospheric, Joy Division-esque kind of post-punk sounds. And that's not to say I don't like later Dead Can Dance. I think Anabasis is a fucking masterpiece. But those are the tracks that I enjoy. It sets a really, really good mood. Like, just, it's a vibe in our apartment. But I know that my husband, he likes it for the tracks that Lisa's on.
Yeah. Oh God, she's incredible.
Yeah, she's always
Yeah.
the star. She is such a vocal
Yeah.
powerhouse.
Ocean. Yeah, like Ocean and Flowers of the Sea, I think are two of his absolute favorites. It's that really just watery quality to her voice.
Mhm.
So strange.
Yeah, she's got a very, very emotive voice with a lot of vocal filigree.
Yes. But if I had to identify like a big weakness in this album is it doesn't have the same sort of cohesiveness
Yeah.
in tone that a lot of the later releases
Yeah.
specifically focus around where you don't realize that it's looping because you're
Right.
away on a journey.
Right.
I'm
Well, I'm
just
go ahead.
guessing that because this album is them with a full rock band, that this is a collection of stuff that they had been working on for years with that band.
Mm.
So it's less about a cohesive album and more of
Right.
a screenshot of their early years.
I
but
think
that's
this was about 4 years into their, because I think they formed in 1980, and this was in 84, but was their
And it's
first
a long
actual
album.
release.
yeah. That's just my guess. That's usually what happens with I presume all bands, but rock bands specifically. The first album is going to be all the stuff they've been honing live for years.
Mhm.
And then the second album is going to be a combination of shit that wasn't good enough for the first album and stuff they wrote really fast to put out a follow-up. That's why you get the sophomore slump a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm of the same mind in the sense that Azy, in the sense that I love Dead Can Dance and all of their output. I mean, they're legendary. They're so innovative and their music is complex, and I love that for what it is. But this album is just combining two of my favorite styles, that weird, either world music or neo-medieval, like I would like in other bands.
Is Dead Can Dance canceled?
Yeah.
Or like Dead Canceled Dance.
Dead Can't
Um,
Dance.
You're combining that with the post punk, which I also am in love with. And so it's in that way, it's kind of like my, chocolate and my peanut butter or whatever. That I would love to hear more of this. I wish they had more stuff like this because it really does it for me.
Yeah.
This is very much a singular album.
Yeah.
Especially after years of Joy Division and Twin Tribes derivative post-punk.
Yeah, let's mix it up, please.
Keep saying, draw on some more Susie and Bauhaus, people.
I mean, the Cabs kind of went in this direction a little bit, but they never fully embraced it.
I think I would, but I don't have the collaborators to.
You need to become a better multi-instrumentalist, Ryan.
Hey, I am a multi-instrumentalist.
Yes, I suck
on all the instruments. I'm surrounded by guitars and similar instruments right now, and I have not mastered a single
And they're all
one.
silently judging you.
Yeah, they are actually. They're arrayed all over the walls, or they have their backs turned to me. Which, fair. I haven't dusted them.
Other
general thoughts?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Take that as a no, I
track
guess.
by track.
Yeah, we can
they
go track
kind of
by
blur
track.
together, but
So,
they're really cool.
yeah. I mean, I have a common complaint on a lot of the tracks, and it's going to be started with the Fatal Impact.
Okay.
But as I said before, this is the only track on this album that I can actually probably say I hate.
Wow.
I really dislike this track. And when I first got the album, I pretty much always skipped this track. I would put it on, listen to it a little bit, but then I would skip it. I hated it. Still don't like it. And I think it's what influenced my attitude towards this album as a whole, and probably what got it on this list in the first place. Really, other than the fact that, well, I mean, the main thing is I find that track to be really, really boring. And even though it's a full live band, it sounds like they've got a backing track, not a band.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the drum and the rhythm section is just like a loop library, which wasn't really a thing back then so much, but that's what I feel is, the loop-based music that got big in the 90s was one of the things I got into music for, but I would never like to let a loop play whenever I was composing with loops. It would be like, the reason I never finished any songs is because I was so busy tweaking the loop every single cycle to move it around.
Guessing that maybe if they're coming from performing live, that this is how they would start their sets off, and that's why it's the first track.
Yeah.
Even though it probably goes on a little too long.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a litany of things I dislike in music. So the sort of untouched looping rhythm section, which wasn't even a very interesting rhythm, but they just keep going and doesn't seem to change. You skip around, because I was doing that. I was like, well, what happens if I click like 2/3 of the way and then go back to a third? And it's like,
What happens if I play it backwards at half speed?
Actually did that a lot with Christian Death.
Did you hear any secret messages about Satan?
No, the funny thing is the...
You have to play it forward for that.
No, well, yeah. But, and it was the backmasked satanic message in one of the albums that made me think about it, but I discovered that the riffs that Christian Death uses when you play them backwards sound like alternative rock. Like have a Pearl Jam sound to them. Kind of fun when you play as Christian Death with like play Spiritual Cramp backwards and you get even flow or something.
Rick Agnew said he wrote a lot of those while tripping on acid really hard. So
Yeah.
maybe he was channeling the future.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, so that musically, the fact that it was very sort of tedious, it does have some interesting improvisation happening, usually the lead instruments, and I found this on a lot of the tracks. So they have this foundational rhythm section that is very repetitive and very static throughout. And then they've got like guitars and or some world instruments that are doing sort of a solo-y thing on top of it, and some of those can be interesting, but most of these are mixed so heavily with the rhythm section that still takes over, and it just becomes very boring. And then
I
the
know
second
you
thing
really
I
don't like
hate-
that. Yeah.
I don't.
Because like
don't.
I tend to hear that stuff as in context as being more ritualistic and more
yeah.
trance-like,
Mhm.
and I know
Mhm.
you really don't like that.
I don't. And then the second thing I hated was the vocals in this one gave me kind of cult vibes. It's a call and response,
Sure.
but the response is the same as the call. So it's a chant. Like they definitely use a lot of vocal doubling. And so they have the call, which is like a vocal doubling of maybe 3 or 4 voices. So it's like a small cadre of people shouting out to the crowd. And then an identical response coming from a much larger group of people. But they're identical. So it's like, let me feed you a line and you repeat it back to me.
Got to join in
I
the
mean,
chant.
that's usually how it goes.
Yeah. But I mean, I like call and response when it is a call and then a response that is a reply rather than a
Marco
repeat.
Polo.
Yeah, exactly. So you need more pool games in music
Beach golf. Let's do it.
that I mentioned. The other thing that I've mentioned in the past, how I hate fun. Well, the thing they're chanting seems to be very much a wahoo, which I always hate in music when music has sort of a yahoo or wahoo sound in it.
Fair.
So there's
We're
just
goth.
That's
Fun's
we are
not
goth. Yeah.
this track just, and this is the only track that I really, really hated on the album.
enough.
Most of the others are better, but this track just, I think it soured my attitude towards the album as a whole, just having to skip this
Yeah.
track every time. But yeah, this
Yeah.
one, I really hate the Fatal Impact. Anybody else have some thoughts on Fatal Impact? Does anybody like it?
I like the bass
I
line.
kind of like it.
Okay.
I thought
I
it was. I didn't. I liked it. Yeah, I liked it.
Okay.
I'll say that.
Does it
I'm
hold
not
up
afraid of you.
to a
I'm not
lot
afraid
of
of you, Trey.
repeat listens? Maybe not.
No, yeah,
but
no.
I'm not sure I would listen to most of the songs on this album on their own on repeat ever. Like, even though it's a more rock based album and these have a lot of personality distinct from their later stuff, there's not really anything standout on this. It still washes over me.
Mm-hmm.
And Lisa comes in and out, and then you sit through another song with the male vocals, and then she comes back. I don't know.
Yeah. Lisa doesn't sing on a lot of this track. This is very Brandon heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On this album. I like
Mhm.
both of their vocals, so I don't have a problem with that. But definitely Lisa's the powerhouse.
Yeah.
Brendan's a solid vocalist.
Yeah, he's not bad.
And he's the one who speaks in English most of the time too. So he's the one you can actually listen to it for lyrical content
Yeah.
rather than for sonic atmosphere. Though Lisa has a couple of tracks on this that
Yeah,
she's speaking English.
she has more English on this album than I've ever heard her do.
That's true.
Well, Frontier would be
All right.
where she shows up.
She does, but we'll do the trial next. This was definitely a much better.
Yeah, it's a good song.
So this track I liked a lot more than the Fatal Impact. But it's still in the just okay realm for me. It's not a bad track. I don't hate it, but it doesn't really grab me. It has a similar problem with the rhythm section. Like I said, that's going to be a theme throughout. And I feel kind of sad because I actually kind of want to read the drummer's book because he's the one that wrote the I guess the biography on Dead Can Dance, which I got on my to read list. He seems like a very interesting guy, but the live drumming on this album is the only example I know because I haven't listened to that much of their live output from this era. I've seen them live, but that was in like 2012. So very much different from this album in this era. But it's again a very, very static rhythm section throughout. It does vary a little bit more, so it has a little bit of interest. And the rest of the instrumentation is a lot better. It's not as the first track doesn't have a lot. It has little bits and pieces coming in and out. This one seems to have a little bit more strong songcraft. And it's definitely, this one leans more towards that post-punk goth sound. The first track is very much an intro track, but the trial is sort of their first actual sort of rock song. And it's good.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. And it's always interesting to hear that in comparison with what I'm familiar with Dead Can Dance and what I love with Dead Can Dance, which is their later stuff.
So basically, if they had discovered polyrhythms in this era, it would be a classic.
Yeah, I would like it a lot more. 'Cause, I mean, I'm fine with loops when they're. I'm a big fan of Stephen Reich and Terry Riley, which is all loop stuff too, but it's phasing in and out. They're not the same length, so they, start to clash with each other and make things continually be interesting. But this is also Brandon's vocal debut. I find this to be a really good. I do like Brandon's vocals, though, as we already mentioned, he's not on the same caliber as Lisa. But
I mean, that's
he does a good job.
That's like being like, I'm in the biggest rock band in the world and I'm Ringo. Oh no.
Who's a solid drummer, but not the greatest of singers.
He's actually a very interesting drummer.
He is.
Speaking of polyrhythms and quirks.
Everyone makes fun of Ringo because he's not the showman. He's not a big showy Neil Peart drummer, but he's a solid drummer. But
yeah,
that's beside the point. But overall,
so you're saying Dead Can Dance needs Ringo?
Yes.
Okay. That's a takeaway I didn't expect to have today.
But yeah, I thought this was a good showcase of Brendan's vocal style. He's got his pretty powerful baritone, but he's definitely being also very expressive, which isn't always the case for him. But he's got a lot of dynamism in this, and I quite enjoy it. He's got good lyrics as well.
Of course, I'm going to get to the lyrics later.
Another continual complaint I'm going to have is this does end, like a lot of their tracks, with a lazy fade. And I hate lazy fades as an ending trope.
I cut off most of the tracks when I was listening to it on Spotify like a good 20 seconds early. Because having the hard cut was so much better than the lazy fade.
Yeah. And they have a few tracks that do end with a hard cut, and those are fine. But yeah, I have a pet peeve around the fade out thing. Just end your track. I get that it's hard sometimes.
Better or worse than a power slide?
Called a pick scrape, Danny.
The power slides are worse.
I have all of my Spotify listening set to overlap the songs by 2 seconds because that gets rid of the 4-second gap.
Yeah.
That seems to make it pretty seamless usually.
Yeah.
I do too, but Dead Can Dance was still very what's the word, egregious?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, this album, I think, well, the way I sort of summarized it with this album is I don't think they figured out songcraft yet. They figured out how to make an interesting sort of vibe. And then they just repeat that vibe and kind of solo
like
over
Killing
it.
Joke.
Like kind of like Killing Joke.
Except much better.
Certainly much more enjoyable in the sum totality of the work. But yeah, I found it kind of annoying, and it's just a lot of their tracks they just dive right into the groove, and it's cool, and it never goes anywhere, and that makes me sad.
That kind of sums up all, how many tracks? 14 tracks.
There are a couple that I don't think did that. I think there are a few that actually do have some of the songcraft that I'm expecting from my experience with the later eras of the band.
Frontier?
Yeah.
Frontier is good too. It's got Lisa.
Yep. No, Frontier's Lisa's debut. Still same issue I have with the songcraft backing track, but Lisa's vocals are amazing. She's powerhouse vocalist, as I already said.
Yeah, incredible.
Love her vocals. There are 1 or 2 tracks on this album that I don't like her vocals on. We'll get to those in a bit, but for the most part, they're solid, and this is a strong one. I really enjoy this track. I do like the music overall, just not the rhythm section that underlies it. I find is weak, and it bothers me the most because they mix the rhythm section so high in this album as a whole, that it's doesn't just fade into the background. It doesn't provide just a support for interesting music happening on top. It's so present that I can't look away from it. But overall, I like this. This is another solid track, but it had its weaknesses. But they're getting stronger as the album goes through.
It's kind of interesting, like on Ziggy Stardust, when you start off with a couple of really weak songs, you have to slog through before the album picks up momentum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other thing I didn't like about this track is you sort of, well, they did vary the drums a little bit because they'd be breaking apart the track with a very steady beat, and then they'd have these little breaks where they'd go like double speed on the drums just to break it up, and then they go back to the standard beat. And that was fine until the last minute of the track. They just decided to go with that double speed fill and just do it constantly for a minute as the track ended. And then it fades. Actually, no, this one actually ends. This one ended. This one ended. Take that back. The one wasn't a fade. But it did do a sort of a retardando, which was fine. It's better than a fade. But yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that was a producer choice because there's such an odd band and it's kind of ethereal, or if they were like, yeah, we don't have an audience to clap, so I guess just fade away into the next track.
I mean, it could be. Yeah, this one ends. So next is Fortune. This was actually my first vote on this one was the one that actually showed their ability to have some songcraft. This one actually felt like a cohesive piece and not a backing track with a bunch of noodling on top of it.
Mm.
And it's very post-punky.
Very Joy Division inspired.
Yeah, this is very Joy Division. The bass work is very Peter Hook. It's even got the high register. It's not a low bass line. It's a very melodic, high register bass, just like Hooky.
Well, they sold out and became New Order by this point, so whatever.
No, that's fine. We can revisit the old Joy Division. Has a lot of that post-punk sound to it, but also has a lot of that solid atmosphere that that Dead Can Dance brings as their unique sound. And I definitely think this is.
I love this song.
This song moves well. It flows well. It's got a good driving pulse and evolution that takes you through the track as a journey rather than the static thing that the first three tracks hit me with. It's a static, interesting atmosphere, but it might be trance-inducing, as you mentioned, Danny, but that doesn't necessarily work for me. This one, it wasn't, wildly varied. We're not talking a prog rock epic here, but we're definitely got a good progression through the work, and a nice post-punk sound. I mean, the
combination of those two things it does it for me.
Mm-hmm. The only negative I had on this one was actually Brendan's vocals on this they dipped too much into the disaffected goth baritone stereotype. He wasn't as emotive in this track as I like him in a lot of the other tracks where he's singing on. It's kind of limited affect.
But he is singing in a higher register than the usual goth generic baritone.
It is. It's a high Barry. It's still a Barry, but it's a high Barry.
Hi, Barry.
Hi.
I like his vocal swell as the hook for the song.
Yeah.
Not words, just oh.
Yeah, there's a track towards the end where he really leans into that, and it's much more. He does a lot more of he's picking up a little bit of Lisa's technique of wordless emoting with vocal.
Glossolalia.
Yes. Actually, not quite. I don't think you're thinking glossolalia, because that's speaking in tongues.
What's the other one?
Yeah, you're thinking. I'm blanking on it now.
Where you
too.
extend.
I know what you're talking about.
Extend
though.
a single syllable out
Yes.
with a bunch of notes.
Yes. What they do in R&B as runs these days,
or plain chant.
Right.
Oh, men.
Yep. I'm sure I'll come up with a word in a bit, but I'm blanking on it right now. But I know what you're talking about.
It's getting late.
Well, we already defined it. Who needs a word?
Yeah. No, ocean is, I think, where I cream myself. So let's get into that.
Yeah.
one.
So ocean I liked, but I felt it was a little bit. This is one of the ones I didn't like Lisa's voice on.
Really?
Because she's spending too much time in her upper register and she gets real nasally. I like her lower to mid range a lot more than the upper register.
The dissonance she does with the vocal run.
It's interesting, and it gives me a little bit of sort of Bulgarian chant vibe, which I do quite like Bulgarian chant. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally. We all know about Bulgarian chant.
Well, if you've seen Ghost in the Shell, you do.
Yeah. Or The Ascent is a video game that takes a lot of inspiration from that. They've got some similar stuff in there.
Oh, do they? I haven't listened to the soundtrack to that.
It's one of my favorite soundtracks from a game. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I loved that. I loved her, but continue. But I loved that vocal range.
It's weird, and maybe it's just a disconnect I have with Lisa's vocals because I am a big fan of Bulgarian chant, and I fell in love with it through Ghost in the Shell. I'm the one who said it, but I didn't even think about it until I just said it. But it does have that vibe, but for whatever reason in this particular song, I found it a little bit just jarring. But maybe I just was in the wrong headspace when I was listening to it. Maybe if I listened to it some more, I would like it. But it didn't work for me as much. It was it felt forced and a little bit too much in that upper register, and I don't felt that's where Lisa's strongest. Though she can reach him. Doesn't feel like she's straining too much, but I'm feeling more strain than I expect from her vocals, and I think that might be what didn't fit for me.
Do you think you would have liked it better if she didn't have the vibrato? If it was just a straight note?
Possibly.
I love
because her vibrato is a little bit broad. I like her vibrato in general, but every once in a while, I don't know. So the first thing that comes to mind when I think of excessive vibrato, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Rasputina.
Yeah.
The band with way too much vibrato is I struggle with Rasputina because of the lead singer's
Rasputina.
Crazy vibrato.
Something I learned from that David Byrne How Music Works book is vibrato was more of a technique that came in with recordings. Partially because the speed was not always reliable.
Mm-hmm.
Because opera and more mainstream singing before that time was more just straight notes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great
and
book.
people
That makes
kind of
sense.
thought vibrato was gauche.
Did I
some
recommend
sort
that
of
book for
needless
you, or did you find it
flex.
yourself, Ryan?
I read it years ago, and I
Okay.
think I brought it up on a recommendation maybe the last time we did this, because it always comes up because it covers everything.
Yeah, I've definitely brought that up. I think I strongly recommended it to you, Azy, because I think it was at that bookstore we
Mhm.
met at. They had it there.
Yeah,
Yes.
fantastic book.
But yeah, that is an
I have
amazing
not
book.
read it yet.
I listened. The audiobook is great too because David Byrne is the reader.
Yeah,
I remember you telling me
Yeah.
about that. Yeah. If I ever pick up audiobooks again, I'll have to actually check to see if the library has it. I'm a big supporter of the
Oh,
library.
Hell
I listen
yeah.
to almost all my audiobooks and regular books from libraries. I'm a huge.
Hell yeah, brother.
I like my Hoopla and Overdrive and Libby. I live in those apps.
Yes. Yes. And Canopy too, if you want to watch movies.
I don't think
Sorry, is this a public service announcement for the library?
so. Hoopla does movies and video as well. I don't think Canopy. I don't think Chicago Public Library does Canopy.
Mm.
I have to look into it, but I use Hoopla every once in a while with movies. I'm actually listening to an audiobook on Hoopla right now. But yeah, no, the David Byrne How Music Works is an absolutely brilliant book on music and the whys of why an artist does certain things and how, like I mentioned to you, Danny, when we watched the movie, the actor network theory, he kind of touches on that as well, how the space informs the performance.
Yeah. Yeah, mise en scène.
Yes, indeed.
I think the gear too. It's a little bit underrated in rock production and the styles of playing. But I've noticed from messing around with my bands, like kind of similar to how I was saying Geordie Walker has to like really control how much noise that big hollow body guitar makes at high
Mhm.
volume. A lot of punks, I think, play in the fast strumming style that they do because they have garbage fucking equipment with no sustain and no effects beyond noise.
Yeah.
So they just keep the rhythm going fast, whereas you get somebody like a David Gilmour who's known for all of his solos. He's got a million compressors so the notes last forever.
Or Fripp.
Yeah,
His
Fripp
whole
is kind of his
Frippertronic
own category.
setup.
He's got pedal boards upon pedal boards half a century before you were born.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, how many tracks into this are we?
I'll be real quick then. Ocean was
You loved
my
Ocean.
favorite track.
Yep.
Yeah. There's definitely Susie and the Banshee vibes that I was picking up. I think the reason I love it so much is not for all the cool technical reasons that you fucking nerds were talking about for not liking it, but just because of the vibe that I get. It sounds like an invocation of an ancient deity. It's
Mhm.
that I really love the vocals and how they fit into the song, and it just gives me the feeling of like slipping out of my flesh and my consciousness ascending into the astral firmament.
Mhm.
It's just, it gives me chills. It feels like I usually when I'm listening to these, I'm doing other things and I have to
could just
stop
say you're
whatever
on
I'm
drugs.
doing. Yeah, no, I'm not actually at the moment for a little
But
bit
when
now.
you listen,
But I have to stop whatever I'm doing and just focus on this song because it takes me to a different place. This is my favorite track on the album. One of my favorite Dead Can Dance songs, maybe. I don't know if I
Okay.
could say that,
Yeah.
but
I mean, you absolutely can say that.
yeah.
And I think I can see so the thing that I didn't like about it, which, the high vocals, looked at it in a different way, especially with the way you're talking about with this sort of transcendental out of your body thing. That is almost a expression of Dionysian ecstasy, the sort of high wailing, shrieking, I'm losing track of the mortal world and just being so captured that I have to shriek out in ecstasy.
Yeah. Which I'm about to do when we finish this episode. So let's get it going. I got
All
somebody
right.
waiting for me.
Yeah, oh yeah.
East of Eden, surf guitar. That's fun.
So this one
My favorite tracks.
had a really fun bouncy groove. It was
Yeah.
still a little bit repetitive, but it was actually not as bad because of the sort of bounce to it. It had a little bit more. It wasn't quite as straight as some of the other ones, which gave it a little bit more variety. They did keep me interesting, and it did a real good job of driving the song forward. So it didn't feel like it was stasis like the earlier tracks. And it was another good. I thought it was another good showcase of Brendan's vocals. He was being more emotive again, unlike the previous track I mentioned him on. Um, so I really enjoyed that, and I thought the guitar solo that actually came in about halfway through the track was kind of nice. More Joy Division vibes. This time not from the bass, because the bass line was actually pretty low, lower than Peter Hook usually plays.
Yeah.
But the guitars were very Joy Division-y to me
Yeah.
on this track. So I did enjoy this track. Other than, still had some qualms about the rhythm section, but I did like their sort of bouncy groove, even though did become a little bit repetitive. But yeah, I did enjoy this track.
You said this is your favorite, Azy?
Yeah, this track and A Passage in Time are my favorite tracks.
Okay.
I've no nothing to
Nothing to
add.
add?
No, that's fine.
I wish that I was pulling, the tray maneuver and listening to these as we're talking about them.
I am as
But-
well. I just don't have much to add.
All right. So Threshold. So this is another one that's still strongly or pretty strongly in their post-punk sound. But this one actually has a mix. Instead of the previous post-punky tracks on the album were all Brendan, where this one is Lisa, which is an interesting mix, having sort of Lisa's vocal stylings along with the sort of post-punk instrumental. I thought it was really an interesting combination. A lot of good atmospherics as well. The rhythm section is getting more varied. It's still not nearly as where I want it to be. But overall, it's
the
getting
guitar.
better.
The guitar is a rhythm I associate more with post-punk too. Instead of the driving chorusy guitars, it's a little more one more foot in the punk,
Mhm.
where they're just doing dun, 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 dun. So it gives them options to open up later in the song.
Yeah, and
Let it breathe.
the drum rhythm really has a very sort of krautrock vibe to it as well. Not quite a motoric beat, but it's got a little bit more groove than that, but it's got that same constant bass and or snare, not a lot of space to breathe.
There's a lot of walking bass on this album.
Yes.
Just do 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 do.
But yeah, you're right. The guitar definitely has that sort of chiming post-punk sound. Yeah, I generally do really enjoy this song.
Another crossover with the post-punk stuff is just how short all these songs are, at least in comparison to most of the other Dead Can Dance songs I've heard.
Yeah. I think that's a rock convention that kind of slowly faded away. That, again, how music works. He talks about how 2.5 to 3.5 minutes was like the side of an EP or single.
It fit on the album
so that was
format.
perfect for the radio. So everybody wrote to that, and that's the pop formula.
Yeah. So one thing I had to say about towards the end of this track that I thought was sort of an opportunity missed. So I did really enjoy how about halfway through you started getting this sort of combination wind ocean surf sound that sort of come in and kind of
rain
overtaking. It wasn't a rain stick. It was more of a white noise rather than having that actual rattly sound like a rain stick. So you didn't feel individual particulates. It was just sort of this wash of white noise. Just sort of coming in and out. It was getting louder and louder and kind of overtaking the music. And what I would have loved to see them end it with is it just going full on like they just got buried in surf and having that white noise take over until it just cut. Where unfortunately they got up to a point where it was almost taking over, and then they just decided to fade all of the volume into another slow fade.
You should just ask for the stems and remaster it yourself.
I mean, with AI, I do have couple of apps that can break apart tracks. Although it's hard with stuff like this because they're good with if it's got a piano and drums and guitar and bass, they can pick the normal instruments out. It's the weird instruments they struggle with. So I have been playing with throwing symphonies at it and seeing what it pulls apart from like an orchestral.
That's especially interesting considering those are kind of badly recorded usually.
There's
just like a room mic.
Yeah, there's a lot of ambisonic stuff that happens too, but yeah, it's one of my sort of fascinations right now with music. So I'd love to do something with orchestral instruments that are all close mic, like almost contact mic, close mic, where you get no room, and just have like
so they
an
all
ASMR,
sound like they're separate,
like ASMR orchestra.
That's a little bit why the Joy Division production sounds so weird and timeless. Is he was really, really into recording everything separately down to like distinct drum beats that all got strung together.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wonder if they did some of that on that Killing Joke album to get that strange, isolated, sterile sound too. Because it's kind of normal now because digital is easy, but it used to be everybody would be in the room or most of them, and you would get a lot of bleed on the mics. Like occasionally, if you go back and listen to something like isolated Motorhead vocals, you can hear deafening levels of bleed from his headphones going into the vocal mic.
I mean, they are one of the loudest bands, so you're going to have a lot of bleed.
Indeed. I was going to say, you could just pull an Al Jorgensen or a Witch Hands and just completely redo the whole first album.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
All right, so next
what,
one.
What track are we on?
So we just finished Threshold, and then we've got a passage in time, which I think, Azy, you said was your other favorite track. Is that?
I just really like. What's the dude's name?
Brendan Perry.
Brendan.
Thank you. I really like his, just like the whole post-punk vibe of these tracks, and I love what he does with his voice on these tracks. They're just, I can't give you any sort of specifics because this is very much like an ambient music that we listen to at home. It's not something we sit down and, like really take notes on.
Right.
And I even struggled to take notes on it when I was trying to take notes on it.
Because you have a totally different association with it due to years and years of listening in a very specific environment and circumstance.
Yes, exactly. So, but these are the ones that just pull me under. And I think they are just gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's a really shiny pop song. Jangle.
This is one of the ones I've kind of wished was longer.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would have liked to have gotten more of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's
just use AI.
It is one of the longer tracks on the album, actually. This is the second longest track on the album.
Yeah.
And only by like 6 minutes or 6 seconds. I mean,
yeah.
I did find the rhythm section was a little repetitive, but other than that, it was very good. I loved all the other instruments. I loved Brendan's voice. He was doing a good mix of kind of the detached vocals, but also with the expressive vocals. So it was kind of a mix of the two, which I found made them both stronger because of, variety and the difference emphasizing the emotions that are being embedded in the two different styles. I also did like the change up that happened about 2/3 of the way in, because the beginning was a pretty straight up sort of punk beat. But then it went halftime about 2/3 of the way in. And I really do like that drop.
That's just something I've thought about since our band got rid of the keyboard. We've like found ways to take up that aural space with just four of us.
Yeah, it usually goes the other way, right? The keyboard,
Yeah.
because the keyboard does everything if you want to try to make it.
Mm-hmm. Or it'll have go the other direction and just have kind of a baseline synthy swell kind of feel.
Mm-hmm.
Which we did on like an album where we didn't have the keyboard and we were still writing without it. We were like, oh, it doesn't sound like us without keys. And now we've just totally given
Now
that
you're
up.
used to it.
Yeah, and I crank up my reverb on my vocals and the guitar gets more space to noodle around.
Mhm.
And,
Other than that reverb, you're regaining your punk cred by getting rid of those scandalous keyboards.
Shrouds would be proud. Oh, I could have worn my I Hate Darkwave shirt today,
Oh,
which I don't, by the way.
but opportunity
Just-
missed.
Yeah, I know. Instead, I'm wearing the Ministry shirt.
I mean, all right. The next track is Wild in the Woods. Ironically, while this is one of my favorite tracks, I have the least to say about it. I seem to say a lot about the things I don't or have critiques about. But this one, it's a good vibe. It's definitely feels like probably one of the ones that gets closest to what I think of when I think of Dead Can Dance. This definitely evokes where Dead Can Dance was going to go with the remainder of their career.
Yeah.
It really just picks you up and washes over you and takes you away with it.
Yeah. The drumming is very, very sparse, so no longer has the drums front and center being repetitive and taking me out of it with just too much repetition for my tastes. But a very nice side stick just happening there in the background.
We were just saying how much they did with so little on that poppier track right before this, and this one is like actually leaning more into that almost Cocteau Twins sound.
Yeah.
Dreamy waves of reverb.
Very dreamy, but still has a fair amount of interesting guitar. And then also what on a first listen I thought was dulcimer, which was in a lot, but looking at the some of the stuff online about the album, it looks like it's I guess Lisa had a fascination with the yang qin, which is a dulcimer, but is the Chinese dulcimer rather than I was thinking because she was not playing it in the Chinese form, and was probably had it tuned because I think the yang qin is like a kodo in that it does have movable tuning pegs, so you can change tuning on the fly. But she definitely had it tuned very Western. It did not sound even slightly Asian. So I definitely didn't clock it as a Yangqin.
I don't know this instrument. It's not like the zither with the two sides and the bridge in the middle and the finger picks, right? It's something more akin to a kodo with the neck, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's very much, if you look at an image of it, it looks very much like a dulcimer.
Oh, okay. Because of the rock band format of the band on this one, it's almost like shoegaze before those bands started forming.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting. Like I could probably throw it on a shoegaze playlist and nobody would notice.
I can see if our little, I think we still have a shoegaze night that happens. I think Philly still does Shimmer. It's been a while since I've been to one show, and
I believe so. I think they just had it a month ago.
Maybe I can see if he can play Wild in the Woods.
Musica Eternal?
The Musica Eternal was one I really liked it, but was also very disappointed with it because I enjoyed it a lot, but it felt very much like an interlude. It wasn't developed. It was very much heavy on the Yangqin because you got the dulcimer action happening throughout. But I'm like, I wanted it to turn into a song, and it was another one of those. I think I've complained about this with some of our album reviews on the podcast, where especially intro tracks, where it's like, oh, you have this great idea, and you just never go anywhere with it, and you just let it just end. Like, but I want you to do things with this. I want you to go somewhere, and this is a beautiful
I had
track.
the speed of 90.
Yeah. This is a beautiful track that I wish went further. Which, for a track that's almost 4 minutes long is, what are you talking about? But it just like it kind of does a thing and then it fades in and then it fades back out again a little bit.
It's very reminiscent of their later stuff.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like it should be on the Serpent's Egg post of the Seraphim or something.
But I mean, I really love this track. I think it makes a nice palate cleanser. But yeah, I'm just disappointed that they did not do more with it.
It was a little too 70s hippie Eastern mysticism in a way I'm not super excited about.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, I thought it was the weakest track on the album, but I still really like it, which I think speaks to how much I like the album.
Doesn't sound quite cliche enough for me to think that about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a certain riff or a gong or something where you're like, oh, the movie composer got lazy with the sound setting.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just that was my criticism.
Okay. So
the next one though,
Carnival of Light.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this one I do quite enjoy. Carnival.
I'm skipping one. I
think.
Did
you go with Power We Trust?
What
the
is...
Love Advocated.
Yeah.
We'll get to that one next. But Carnival of Light, I do really enjoy this one. This is another great vocal turn from Lisa. With heavy use of the dulcimer as well, and a nice the percussion is in the background, so it's not the repetitiveness doesn't trigger me at all. It's giving a steady pulse that allows the track to progress. But I think that Lisa's lyrics and the dulcimer is a lovely thing here. This is again another one of those things that really feels like a later or predicting later Dead Can Dance. It does end in a fade though, so there's that. But yeah, In Power We Trust is probably my favorite track on the album. I love this track. I wish it had a less of a slow crescendo in, but when I especially loved it when I listened to it on headphones, because then I had the isolation and I could start hearing the music right away rather than having to wait till it overcame the background noise. But this actually has an interesting drum rhythm too. It's like all the things I've complained about previously. They seem to overcome all of it in this one. Brendan's vocal in this is excellent. The lyrics are great. So I love this one. Does it in a fade though.
Yeah, it sounds like they're doing hi-hat work with little finger cymbals mixed in.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I can hear that. I love good cymbal work though.
The melody on this song reminds me of a Helium Vola song that I could not place. I spent like a good 30 minutes, either Helium Vola or Cantal. I was like, is it this one? Is that this one? And I couldn't find it, but it sounds very familiar.
Gives me a little bit more Cantal vibe than Helium Vola. The vocals, I mean, Helium Vola's vocals are closer to this.
Yeah. I love this song because of the way that the lyrics mesh with the music, because initially just listening to the music, I did get a sort of jarring or disconcerting feeling between like the singing portions of the song and the breakdown and other parts of it that created this like sense of uncertainty, the way that it was composed. And then I went and I read the lyrics, and I hadn't read the lyrics for any of these albums. But I actually read the lyrics to this. I like them so much, I went back through and read the lyrics to all the songs, and I really, that was like a cherry on top was the lyrical content for this album. I thought was great. But this song is talking about moments in life of immense change when you have your routines and your comforts that you rely on for consistency and stability taken away from you. And that leaves you sort of feeling destabilized or being fearful and kind of wondering, what can I lean on to make it through this moment in time? And that on its own sort of resonated with my current experience.
It's very prescient for all of us
losing my house.
These days.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially with what you've been through this last year.
No, I think a lot of people can relate to that. So that was really relatable emotionally. And then I really liked how the song itself also felt uncomfortable in a way to sort of elicit or evoke those emotions through the music. And that's when all of that kind of meshed for me and had a big emotional impact. And then I went back through and read all the lyrics for everything. And I think he's a really good lyricist and very poetic. That's
I'm
what I like.
I'm not entirely sure who the lyricist is.
Oh, okay.
Part of me thinks it is Brendan, just because when it comes to the stuff that is not vocal tone, but his actual lyrical content tends to be the stuff that he sings. But I don't actually know if he is the primary lyricist or if it's a collaboration.
Someone can tell us in the YouTube comments. Yeah.
Like and subscribe. Patreon.
Ring the bell.
Hear the Forbidden Album and my review of it. If you didn't turn it off an hour ago when I trashed David Bowie.
All right, what about the Arcane?
Yeah, the Arcane is another highlight on the album. I like this one. I really like the drum rhythm. It was repetitive, but it was just an interesting rhythm. Another kind of stop, slower rhythm, held together with the cymbal pulse. That it's a very steady beat, but then this back and forth between the bass drum and snare give it a really interesting push and pull that allowed it, even though it was repetitive, to keep me engaged, just because it was just different enough that it kept me interested throughout. And this is also the one that had Brendan doing a little bit more of I found the word, Ryan, the melismatic singing.
Melisma, yes.
That's the word we are trying to figure out earlier.
Not to be confused with miasma.
Correct. Though sometimes it can
also a great word.
It is also a great word. But yeah, Brendan did a lot more of the ahs and sort of melismatic singing in this that Lisa usually does, and I thought it was a fascinating thing to hear him doing that, whereas in most of the stuff, he's more of a Sprechstimme in that he does a lot of speech singing rather than very melodic stuff. It's very much a mix of speech and singing that I associate with his vocal technique. But this one has a good mix of that on the verses, but then the chorus is very non-verbal, but still very lovely.
Yeah.
I like that the song is about in-groups and out-groups and bigotry and the wealthy sort of trying to divide and conquer among the rest of us. Real prescient political message. Yeah.
I mean, that was
prescient, or is it paying attention to historical trends?
It's evergreen, and also it's
nice,
timely for that era in '84 as well.
Right,
that was
you've got
Reagan's
to
era.
push. You've got to struggle. 80s.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. No, it's always good when there's going back to Killing Joke again as well. I always like when there's like a foundational, important early goth album that's overtly political.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am really glad we've started moving away from the era of like, well, I don't want to make anyone upset. because you're literally pandering to Nazis at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
All right, so last track,
Last.
Flowers of the
yeah.
Sea. This is another. The album is ending strong. I do really enjoy this track. Does have a rhythm section that's repetitive. However, because it's limited to just hand drums and it's being mirrored so closely with the dulcimer line, they're doing almost an um, interlocking rhythm that starts to shift around, sort of giving me some, like I mentioned before, the minimalist Stephen Reich and Terry Riley phasing style of music, where while both the dulcimer line and the drum line are fairly static, the way they rub against each other forces them to evolve because they're not happening at the sort of exact same rate. So it just felt like a constantly evolving rhythmic underpinning to Lisa's glorious vocals. And I like how Lisa, she sort of reached into all of her ranges, not quite as high as Ocean, but she definitely did the highs, the lows, and the mids, and she was just sort of sliding up and down between them as she went through the whole song.
It is an interesting way to close the album, because the first track is very obviously much more rock and post-punk,
Mm-hmm.
and this one sounds like it could belong on any of their later albums almost.
Yeah.
Foretells where they're going from
Mm-hmm.
here.
And then the ending
I
of
don't
this
think-
track I thought was really powerful too, because they do a thing that a lot of bands do when they're trying to make a major change, is they drop whole instruments out. So the drums drop completely, but the dulcimer continues the same rhythm, and it's just the dulcimer and Lisa. And it has a solid ending.
Yeah, there's barely any drum kit. I don't think I hear any bass or guitar either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was basically just hand drums, dulcimer,
A little bit of
Lisa,
cymbal work.
and
Very
atmosphere.
subtle.
Yeah, a little bit of cymbal work.
Ooh.
This has been absolutely fascinating. Listening to like a completely outside perspective to the way that I digest and interpret this album, which isn't nostalgic for me.
Mm.
Perfect.
Because I can honestly say I have never picked up on the lyrical content before.
It's hard with Dead Can Dance because you don't really think of them as a lyrical band,
Yeah.
because you think of Lisa's lyrics most of the time, which are just, it's not quite Cocteau Twins levels, but it is very much, it's emotion in the tone quality, not in the words.
Right.
So you don't think of them as a word band. You think of them as just pure sonic emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so to have that broken down along with a lot of the instrumentation and, how and why it's what makes it impactful, and listening to that broken down, I've just been, as much as I let the album wash over me every time I listen to it, I've been letting Yell's breakdown wash over me.
Oh.
So that's why I've been so quiet on this one.
Well,
I love listening to both of you talk about it. Yeah, a treat.
well, Azy, you'll have to let us know next time you have this playing in the background at home whether your experience has changed from this added context.
Yeah, I will the next time we listen to it. I'm not going to force it.
No. Just listen to it naturally and respond.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely will, because that just sounds like a fun little intellectual problem to have around an album that is usually just atmosphere for me.
Yeah. I mean, this still isn't my favorite Dead Can Dance album. I appreciate it more, especially since I've sort of isolated listening to it closely and sort of analyzing what I was vibing with and what was grating against me. And I can't even say I don't like this album. It's one that I bounced off of when this was the only Dead Can Dance album that I'd heard, and was sort of very much steeped in more world music things at that time anyways, because this was the time of Enigma and Enya. And I was discovering world music through college studies and all that. So I definitely vibed with what they were doing later. And also hadn't really gotten steeped into post-punk yet. I got into goth, but sort of second wave goth first.
Right. Yeah.
A little bit of first wave, but more second wave goth. Because I mean, I was getting into things through the Goth Box and Gothic Rock compilation. So hearing like the Shroud and Switchblade Symphony and stuff like that, which is kind of third wave, I guess. But goth that actually knew it was goth rather than post-punk that was being sort of called goth and struggling with that identity and hating it. So I wasn't really steeped in the concepts of post-punk, so I wasn't appreciating that from this album. The actual fact that it was Dead Can Dance's sole post-punk album. But yeah, overall, I developed a new appreciation of it. Still hate the first track. But other than that, I do appreciate this album more than my nostalgia led me to believe.
Would they have called themselves as a genre or band? Because I kind of suspect they would have rejected the label of post-punk as vehemently as goth, because they probably wouldn't have identified at all with punk.
I mean, I don't think very many bands that protest against the genre they're being played in actually want to be given any genre, because a lot of the frustration those bands always seem to express is that any sort of label means that they can't do what they want.
I think
I
remember reading was it Lisa Gerard or was it somebody it might have been her, an interview in a zine where she was like straight up just said, I don't like labeling my art. I don't want to be I don't want a genre.
Yeah, and that's a lot of artists. And I've said it on the podcast also before, genres are very much a tool of categorization for
it might have been Monica Richards. I don't
for monetization purposes.
Yeah.
But I do find it useful because it helps me find things. But I also don't like, I like bands that don't limit themselves. I want to see bands that have many different genres and I can pick and choose depending on my mood.
It's also useful for the artists so they know how to market themselves too, not just imposition record companies.
It can be, but I find the artists don't. Well, I can't say that in general, but a lot of artists acknowledge the importance of that because they do want to eat. But there's that constant stress, especially within the alternative scenes coming out of punk, particularly between the whole selling out versus pure art for art's sake, and then starving.
It's a little more intense in some ways, not in the same way as like, well, these artists are doing basically the same folk music, but these are black ones and these are white ones, so it's blues and country levels. But like you go on CD Baby to put in your album release and they ask you what genres and then what artists you sound like.
Yeah, we got to hashtag everything nowadays too. Look at like Bandcamp.
And you can get as granular as like, what mood is this song? Pick 3 adjectives.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite review site is AllMusic, which has song mood and feel, and it has all those things in their reviews.
Speaking of mood, I think my takeaway from this album is that this was my first time listening to this album, crazy enough.
Me too.
And I think it was perfectly emblematic of the sort of goth mood or milieu that I like to cultivate in sort of the genre sphere of our music, because it's slow and it's creeping. There are obviously traces of post-punk, but the vibe that I get is that sort of fog obscured, decrepit cemetery under the full moon. And a lot of the music that sounds most goth to me is similar to that feeling, whether it's shoegaze or dark wave or classical, like neoclassical or whatever. This album feels to me more mournful, more dirge-like than dancey, introspective. And that to me is what, I look for musical creations that craft a new world or evoke a way of transporting yourself from the mundane to the extraordinary, even though the content of the lyrics or the songs are commenting on real world experiences. It does so in a way that is enshrouded in mystique, I guess. It's the experience recontextualizes the world that we know through a metaphysical or otherworldly aesthetic lens. What does that, what evokes that for any given person will vary, like what kind of music does that, right? But for me, Dead Can Dance excels at this, and I was so giddy to get Dead Can Dance suffuse with post-punk and those sort of markers that I am familiar with and love. And really, I came away with it kind of thinking like this should be considered one of those, I know it's a little bit later in the 80s, or still early 80s, but like one of those important, maybe not seminal or foundational, but one of those really important like goth albums.
Wow, okay.
I loved it.
I do agree with that.
Yeah, I think you could say that's a fairly decent demarcation of where they've shaken off the 70s. The hyper chorusy guitar, and you've got past punk and everything.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of art students have picked up all these influences and weird old instruments.
It's where they've crafted a sound of their own rather than continue to just throw spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah. Are we doing Sinister
I definitely really
Suggestions?
enjoyed the experience with this whole thing, even though, you know, in general,
Yeah, this has been a journey.
since this started with sort of a negative prompt. And in general, we didn't all agree on liking or disliking the albums as a whole. We definitely, some of us liked albums better than others. But in general, I don't think any of us thought, other than the Dead Can Dance album, I think we all had a relatively neutral to negative response to all of the other albums overall.
And I think all of these albums are early, if not first albums that are not representative of the later body of work too.
Very much so.
Right.
But they would have been influential on all the stuff that came out that is part of the canon.
Right. Because they were very novel in their time too, for the most part. I mean, I guess not so much with Sympathy. Because it was kind of it was writing on a band. It was, as far as Al tells it, it was a label trying to chase a bandwagon with an up and coming artist. But yeah, the rest were sort of forging new territory, and that carries with it both success and failure, because it's through the failures that you learn what doesn't work, and through the success you learn what does, and you have to have both to really figure it out.
Sail on silver wings through this storm. What fortune love may bring back to my arms again. The love of a former golden age. I am disabled by fears concerning which course to take. For now that wheels are turning, I find my fate deserting This night is filled with the cries of dispossessed children in search of paradise, a sign of unresolved ambition drives the pinwheel on and on. I am disabled by fears concerning which course to take, when memory bears witness to the innocence consumed in dying rain.
Hi, Max, vocalist with Ausgang here. In the past, I've also been a DJ, music journalist, and movement instructor. I've just finished writing a book on the history of Ausgang, Dark Matters. Ausgang will soon be going into the studio to record a new album, and the two shows we've got confirmed at the moment are September 6 Colorado Goth Fest in Denver, and way in advance, July 10, 2026, Edinburgh Festival in, wait for it, Edinburgh. Ryan asked me my thoughts on the following albums, and I think it's interesting that we have almost polar opposite opinions on them all. So here's the first one, Dead Can Dance, the eponymously titled album. I could never really get to Dead Can Dance. I mean, very earnest, worthy, dark, accomplished, etc. But that album feels a bit monochrome to me. I'm sure they're lovely people, though. The eponymously titled Killing Joke album. Again, I was never a Killing Joke fan. Ausgang's first drummer, Ibo, was a huge fan, however. I remember many good-natured arguments, strident, angry, well-meaning, but, I don't know, lacking a bit of erotica, maybe. Ministry with Sympathy. I hate to be so negative, but I couldn't get behind Ministry either. That synth poppy album seems a million miles from the later gothy industrial reputation. Plus, if we're looking for synth pop, there are a million acts out there who do it better, in my opinion. But to go out on a positive note, Bowie's Ziggy Stardust album. I think generally speaking, Bowie was incredible. Not 100% top to bottom, but most of his early stuff is hard to beat. And this album was just awesome. Talk about light and shade, which I think is what the other three albums lack.
So you've got to be interested in death. It's the last great taboo. It's the only taboo left.
Precisely. I mean, why is it, do you think, that everyone in here is dressed in black? It's a celebration of death.
No, I just like the clothes.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, the clothes look good. Yeah, I mean, death looks good. Charles Manson, yeah? No, he was cool.
Don't know if I mentioned it before, but I'm actually a vampire.
Sinister Suggestions.
We can totally do a very quick Sinister Suggestions if you had something in mind. I actually do have something I could recommend. I wasn't planning on it, but we could totally do that.
I will start because I had the first one, and we can just go in the order that we did those in, because
Please.
my recommendation and my Sinister Suggestion is the local library.
All right.
Hell yeah.
It is free most of the time, and
It's
most of the
quiet.
stuff is digital. It's quiet. Or you can read on your phone, listen from your phone. You don't have to put it down when you poop. The library is
I
a
brought
great
lots of
resource.
books into the bathroom, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but most people bring their phones
No,
now.
yeah.
But it is a great resource for if your local library supports it, for finding new music, believe it or not.
Well, I got a lot
if there
of
are
albums in the library.
Yep. And for reading books about music,
Mhm.
most of the time, even if your local library, because I can understand not wanting to cultivate a goth library. Books are expensive. They take up a lot of space. Money and
Yep.
space aren't things that, everybody has.
Yep.
But the library, they can usually get things through like an interlibrary loan if you really want to read something. And that way you aren't committed if you hate it.
100% agree.
I cannot recommend the library more.
I guess I'll go second then very quickly. I'm very far behind on this as far as a recommendation. I'm sure everyone has seen this already because actually somebody recommended this to me probably like 6 years ago and I never watched it. But there's an HBO show called Los Spookies. I've only watched the first 2 episodes so far, but the vibe I get is like David Lynch meets Wes Anderson kind of thing. And it's about a group of people who are horror fans, horror fanatics, you could say, and they sort of through happenstance end up forming a little group that does like jobs where they do practical effects to either scare people, like do fake exorcisms or do haunted house experiences or whatever. And it's very quirky. Everyone in the group is sort of like goth or metal adjacent in style. There's queer characters. There's people that I would think are autistic. This at least give me that feeling. It's very cleverly written. It's funny. It's fun. Fred Armisen is in it. And I thoroughly enjoyed the first 2 episodes. I kind of made me think, why did it take me so long to watch this? But that would be my recommendation.
May I give another one,
Absolutely.
please?
Yeah.
Thank you. If you happen to be near one of the 4 locations that the British production Dracula Comedy of Terrors is touring to this year, they are currently in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the United States. And then they'll be in Tampa, Florida, and then they'll be in Denver, Colorado later this year. And I believe they're ending in LA. But it is a comedic, modern-ish retelling of Dracula as a stage play, and it is, I've seen clips of it, it is very funny and very gay and very very like queer and in some ways drag coded. It is very I cannot wait to see it later this year.
That sounds
That
fantastic.
sounds amazing, and it's not coming anywhere near us. But it's
Nope.
getting both you and Ryan. Damn it.
Yep.
Come visit. I need an excuse to go see it.
Ryan, what's your suggestion?
Let's see. TV show. If you like The Boondocks and Twin Peaks, speaking of David Lynch.
Interesting combo.
Yeah, it's not a perfect analogy, but it's the ballpark. I've been enjoying the hell out of Atlanta, which is Childish Gambino.
I did enjoy
aka
that.
Donald Glover's show.
I watched, I think, the first season of it, and it was very good. I enjoyed it quite a lot.
No. It goes off on some tangents. They'll just do a whole episode that's almost like a skit, just a standalone story, and then sometimes weave it back into the narrative. Like half the humor comes from just like freaky, surreal moments.
Yeah.
But it's
Gambino hasn't really quite escaped his community roots. Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't rely on some like surreal overarching plot. It doesn't it's not trying to be Twin Peaks, but the influence is very clearly there. So very, very fucking funny. And occasionally sad. And then I didn't really get that far into it, but there's a local author here named Jason Heller who also writes for the Westward, the cool Denver music and arts indie newspaper, who wrote a book all about the influence of science fiction on music, especially around David Bowie, called Strange Stars. So there's a drawing of David Bowie as a lad insane on the cover.
Okay.
It was very fun. If you're into like old sci-fi and David Bowie and all sorts of rock music of the mid-century, it will be right up your alley. I can plug our new album.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Please do.
Like I said, Al redid at least half of With Sympathy. We rewrote half of our first album and put it out sans keyboard, kind of like a fresh start with the new lineup. And I think we're very happy with how it turned out, and you can play them side by side with the different track orders and hear how we've evolved and which songs are almost identical to the originals because we were happy with them. But it's called Vox Nihili, Voice of Nothing.
Oh, so I was pronouncing it wrong and nobody wanted to tell me.
I don't know. It's a dead language. No Roman's going to come out of the grave and execute you.
I mean, I was pronouncing it wrong because I
glorious
wasn't
fire.
noticing the last I, so I was just thinking Vox Nile.
It's some sort of conjugation. Don't ask me. It just seemed pretentious enough.
No, I fucking love it. It's great. You know, I'll probably cut this out, but I can't remember when it was, but I was talking to Scary Lady Sarah at one point, and Pretentious Moi came up, and I was talking about how much I loved Pretentious Moi. And she's like, that's not, let me explain to you what the name means. And I was so embarrassed, but I think that's a classic, like, if you don't know how to say the name of the album or the band, you're doing something right.
It's a classic of people who learn from reading before they learn from hearing.
Yeah, I pronounced subtle for a very long time. So
okay.
When you're listening to your vinyl records,
somehow never heard someone say the band name. I just only read it.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, to be fair, the French don't know how to pronounce their own language, so don't be hard on yourself.
I learned how to pronounce that album title from Miss Piggy.
Yeah, me too.
Excellent. All right, well, what a beast of an episode.
Yeah, have fun editing it.
As is our way.
When I'm starting a brand new job too. That's
You don't get the four of us together without 4 hours minimum.
I know. It's so
tangents.
much fun though. It's so much fun. I love listening to you guys and talking to you guys.
I got to finish a whole drawing while we were sitting here.
Oh, hell yeah. Is it the one you showed us at the beginning?
Yeah, I finished that one. I sent it to you, Danny, and Ryan.
Oh, you've texted it.
Uh-huh.
I must look upon
Trey,
with
do you
my
want me to
peepers.
send you a copy?
Sure.
As though it is being Xeroxed.
Oh, it's beautiful. That turned out extremely well.
Yeah. Why do you sound so surprised?
Now I need the next panel where the pantaloons come down.
I know. I'm getting there. This was fun. I always like doing these.
This was so much
they're
fun.
great every time.
We'll talk again soon.
All right.
Yeah.
And that will be it for us. So thank you so dearly for listening. We will be back next month with a new guest who will be May Graves, goth drag queen extraordinaire, to talk all about gender, religious trauma, the influence of drag on goth, all kinds of fun things. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like to support us, please head over to patreon.com/cemeteryconfessions. And until next time, stay dark.
The preceding program is a member of The Belfry, a network of blogs, podcasts, and videos for the darkly inclined. Go to thebelfry.rip for more information.